It's going to be a super chat party. Oh yeah, it's gonna go down. We just gonna get into this epic intro. Put some fire signs in the chat room if you ready for some boss level game you never expected. You never thought you was gonna see it, but we here to bring it to you. We here to bring you all of the game. All of the game. You guys, the haters, I know you love it. We're gonna get them today, guys. We getting them today. Where my epic music at? Let's get it. Stop it. She looked like she liked it. She liked what he was saying right there. Mr. Jap. Oh! What's going on? A pleasure. Welcome to the kingdom. I'm glad you said something in the chat because you ran step off the top. Quick roll call. Shout out to the people in here. Shout out to Alpha Villains for the super chat.
There it
Party! This is a long overdue collaboration. Reunites my optimism of what this space can do to empower men. Salute to Rollo for his contributions, and salute to my brother Oppie for what he's done thus far. Was in store for the future. Keep grinding. Thank you, Alpha. Epic collaboration.
Yeah, you have to have that.
I got a video for it. I'll play it. Shout out to Misha. See, the ladies love us still. We not lady haters. Looking forward to this great greetings, Afiano. Thank you, Misha. Appreciate that. So how you feeling today, man? I'm feeling good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, it's you probably don't know. Maybe you do know this. I live in northern Nevada, and we're actually finally getting some like above 70 weather here. So it's been very, very nice. And just got done doing some recording with a music project that I play with, and I told them, I said I have to leave because I got to go see Offie.
I appreciate that. That's love and respect. I think that's what the Manosphere is missing. Respect. Is see, I'm the type of person. Say if me and you were to get a beef, no one on YouTube would know about it. I don't rock like that. So, sometimes people try to justify things. It's like, let's have some integrity. We don't have to be friends anymore. It's like a breakup.
Yeah.
If I'm with my girl and I break up with her, I'm not gonna keep putting on Facebook and stuff why I don't like her no more. No, I just get another girlfriend
and you move on. Yeah. I understand a lot. And I understand Donovan Sharp and some of these other guys are talking about this right now. It's like, oh, we need some unity in the Manosphere. And I think that where we're at right now, I think a lot of people don't realize just how long this, I guess, for lack of a better term, this sphere has existed. And there's a lot of people that are just now getting into it, and I'm actually kind of glad this is happening, because a lot of people are going, well, what happened when, back in 2017? What happened back in 2015? Why is it that, this guy doesn't get along with this guy or whatever? And I'm glad that people are asking those questions, because what it means is people are just, they don't care, or they just simply don't know. So I think it's better that we just move on and we talk about ideas rather than people. And what they say, great minds talk about ideas, mediocre minds talk about people, and small minds talk about people, and average minds talk about things.
Right. I actually feel blessed to make it to YouTube, because it's connected me with the best people I've had in my life. I can't lie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
My whole time in life being a particular way, and I felt misunderstood. And just with the RP, it's the best thing is because we're not all the same, but we all have similar mindsets. We all get it. And it's like, some guys just don't get it. Doesn't matter if they have looks, money, or status or whatever. It never crosses over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a recognition. It's having some kind of insight as well, right? I mean, you have to, at some point, you have to get to a stage where you ask questions of yourself. And say, why is this not working for me? Back in the early 2000s, in the seduction communities, that's one of the sayings they used to have was, you will only get what you've gotten if you keep doing what you've done. And I think that is probably the first stage of unplugging, right? Of starting to think differently and saying, why is, when you turn it inwardly and you go, why is it that what I'm doing is not working for me? Why is it I want to be over here, and I don't know why I'm not there yet? I've done all the things that everybody told me, or that I believe will get me from point A to point B, and yet I'm still not at point B. So I have to go back to square one and say, okay, what am I doing that's not getting me to where, my goals or where I want to be at this stage in life?
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question, like, because I know Rollo Tomassi, author first. So it's really, this is really bucket list for me. I remember when I first read your book, I was on my way to Belize, and it was the first time I had these aha moments, because it's like, even though I have friends, even if they're kind of like player guys, they still don't get it. They still, it's like you can have a lot of girls, but that doesn't mean your mindset is as of the king. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's different. So when I just all the stuff like just about hypergamy, and just like one of the main lessons is in relationships have no equity. That's major. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's why guys end up heartbroken, because they're like, man, well, I took care of her stepdaughter. I'm the one who did this, or I'm the one that don't matter today. That was Tuesday.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
You're talking about relational equity, and that was one of the earliest things that I actually was. I think I was really contemplating even back before I even had a blog. I went from So Suave, the forum, to doing my blog, and then to, of course, writing my books. And I had to include that part or that particular topic, anyways, of sort of the myth of relational equity in my first book, because I think a lot of guys think that that's going to be some kind of insulation for them. Like they'll get into a relationship, they'll do everything that everybody always told them to do, right? Like, this is what you do to have a successful marriage. You got to keep it fresh. It's a lot of work, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, well, I took the kids to soccer practice. I did the homework with my kids. I did, I married a single mother, right? I did all these things that in some sense ought to be appreciated. And then they wonder why later on, when that woman cheats on him, or it finds himself on this side of a divorce, or for whatever reason, they believe that the equity they have earned by putting all this time and energy and effort and money and just and emotion into all of this, that it should be some insulation against the nuts and bolts of, just basically visceral, hypergamy. And it's not. And that's something you need to go in with. If you're going to go into a relationship, you need to have your eyes wide open so you're nobody can say you didn't see it coming.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Rollo. Okay, like for me, my first book, Conversation with the Mind, it's not here, it's somewhere. Mm-hmm. But the way that I wrote that book is and I'm gonna send you an audio when we finish and stuff.
Okay.
And Rollo moment. I need a Rollo review on my books. I need it. Let's do it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll be sending you the audio. I know you're a busy man, but like,
sure.
I wanted to. The first book that I read was Iceberg Slim at 9 years old. It was my older brother's book, and it was a thick book, a small but thick book. And once I started reading it, I couldn't put it down. And it taught me, like, wow, the power of words and painting a picture and narrative are powerful. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to display that in my own version of it. So for you, when you wrote your book, what crossed it over from the idea, like, it'll be cool if I do it, because we talk about mindset stuff. Mm-hmm. It'll be cool if I do it. That'll be cool, to actually, like, no, I'm going to do this, and this. We doing it, we putting it out. Like, what was the line?
Well, when I did the very first book, a lot of the chapters and a lot of the topics that I get into in that book, and still, it's like the Bible of the Manosphere right now. I mean, it's the Bible of the red pill. And I didn't set out to write that book particularly. I'm glad it matured into what it is today. But when I was putting it together, I'm like, okay, what's the book that I want to read? What is it that I think that, and at that point, I wasn't like an author. I had no aspirations to become an author either. And I knew that I could do it because, self-publishing was a thing, and I knew I could do it through Amazon and Kindle and all that. And I thought, okay, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to put this together? Do I really want to do this? And I read back in 2005, I think it was The Game by Neil Strauss. And it was, and I still have it up in my book. I'm looking at it in my bookcase right now. I read that book, and I remember being in sort of those forums and just sort of, sorting all this stuff out as, pickup artists and guys who are running game and everything. They were all, it was like a worldwide group of guys, coming together and comparing notes. And it was the first time in history that you could do something like that. And I don't think a lot of people really appreciated that. They were just in an online forum and they didn't really think about it. I'm like, this is the first time that guys all over the world could get together and talk about what are the girls like here? What are some of the commonalities? What are the things that work? What are the things that don't? And they would go out into the field, experiment with this, and they would bring it back to the forums, and everybody would discuss it and talk about it. And I always thought that was great. And so I tried to carry that over into my book, right? I wanted guys to talk about the topics and the sections and the chapters and everything that's in my book. And I say that in the beginning, like in the introduction, really, of all my books, but certainly the first one, is that I expect you guys to like read this stuff and then discuss it amongst yourself. So when some guy says, oh, when should I give my son your book? I go, well, are you talking with him? Because if he's like 15 or 16, it's important that you say, okay, read this section, and then we're going to have a talk about that. Read this section, we're going to have a talk about that. And so it's not so much, I'm not trying to pontificate or anything. I'm not trying to say, lay down the law. This is how things are. I want a discussion very similar to the discussions that I had back in 2005. And so I was reading the game back then, and I thought it was a good book, but it wasn't the book I wanted to read. I wanted a book that was going to be like nuts and bolts. I wanted mechanics. I was surprised that it wasn't that, because there was so much information that was going back and forth on those forums back then. And I'm like, I wanted more. It was entertaining. It was fun. It was funny. It was, reading about Courtney Love and Tom Cruise and Neil Strauss and Mystery and all the rest of these guys. That was entertaining, but it wasn't the book I wanted to read. And so when 2013 rolled around, my blog had been out for 2 years by that point, and I had people just begging me for a book, saying, if you could just write this book, then my son or my friends or my dad or my some guy in my family, they would take it seriously. Because if it's just you on the internet, that was back in the day when like even still today, really, you're just some like random dude on the internet, and nobody takes you for real because you're a guy on the internet. Like, okay, well, if I put it in a book, then maybe you'll take me seriously. Right. And so I had this one reader, and her name was Jackie. And it was kind of interesting because I don't have too many female readers, as you might guess. But she was a big fan, and she says, my son really needs this stuff. He really needs to, it'll save his life. He's going down a dark path. He's with this girl that I really don't want him to marry. And he needs to sort of get his, unplugged from the matrix, so to speak. And so that's what pushed me over the edge, was, okay, I want to write a book that I want to read, that I think is informational, and that is going to help other guys because they're having a conversation about it. And so that's kind of like what prompted me and made me decide to do this. Now, if you know who Rich Cooper is, Rich Cooper has said this before. He says, reading The Rational Male is like drinking from a fire hose, like the information in it. And so it can be kind of overwhelming, and kind of inadvertently, I wrote a book that is a living text. And what I mean by that is like people will come back to it again and again and again. So when I'm at a convention somewhere and people are saying, hey, can you sign my book? And I look at their book and it's all dog-eared, and there's like 3 different color highlights, and there's little liner notes in the sides of it, or underlined, sections of it. That's when I realized that what I had written is something that guys keep coming back to. It's not the kind of book that you just read once and you put on your shelf and say, okay, I read The Rational Male. You come back to it to reference certain parts of it as you encounter different things in life, kind of like the 48 laws of power. Like, not all those laws of power are going to apply to you all the time. They might at different times in your life, you might run into, situations that they apply to. It's the same thing with The Rational Male, and not just the first book, but like certainly the second book, because that's even a little bit more technical. And so people keep coming back to them and they're highlighting things, and it's almost like a learning process. And I'm glad I feel kind of like humbled, because I wrote a book that like people are using to really kind of change their lives. And so they'll come to me and ask me, and I don't do counseling, I do analysis. Right, so somebody comes up to me and they says, hey man, this is what I'm experiencing. This is my life. I married this girl. I wish I would have had your work way back when. I'll be like, okay, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a psychologist, but I will analyze your situation from, my red pill lens. And then I will tell you what I think according to, what I've written and how I've come up. So that's kind of like where I'm at right now.
That's dope. You know, Richard Cooper, shout out to him. He was one of the first people I seen in the. You know what brought me to the Manosphere was a combination of two things, dating, and that's how come I'm kind of in the mix, in the middle too.
Mhm.
Was dating and single mom videos, right? I had a vice. I had a guilty vice, bro. Like O'Shea, Minister Jap, Solo, him, like one of his first videos I see, I think that was the first, The Dangers of Single Moms. Is when I listened to that, I was like, ooh, ooh, because it's like you experience these things, but you don't hear. It's just good to hear them from somebody else, and
Right.
that just makes you feel good. Like, you know, just like I was on a panel earlier today. Shout out to Platinum, and the guy was like, you know, when I'm cocky and I'm arrogant, women chase me, and when I'm nice, they don't. And it's like once you figure out the psychology, it's like you'll stress yourself out. It doesn't matter the reason why.
And
It
you'll
just
make up
is.
reasons why.
Right. It just is.
Suddenly it's working. I don't know why. Let me try to concoct something.
Being nice and like no, and I'm not saying don't be nice to women, but you still have to hold your ground. You still have to be a leader. You know what I mean? Like when people are in successful relationships, and if I see you and your wife and she's smiling, that tells me you know game.
Yeah.
Because it takes a serious amount of game to keep a woman long term.
Mm-hmm.
Serious.
Yeah. I can remember being at conventions, and I think I was there with Rich Cooper and Ryan Stone and some of these other guys. And my wife has come to a couple of those, and on a few occasions she's come out to dinner with me. And the guys later on said, "Your wife is always looking at you. She's always like looking up to you, like either looking up to you or sort of like has her eyes on you all the time." And I'm like, well, that's just how it works, I guess. I mean, that's just how it's been. And so but I thought that was interesting because I didn't really think about that until they told me that. Like, because I'm not like trying to be like really like analytical about myself, right? I'm not like looking at me from the perspective like a third party or somebody from the outside looking out. And I thought, they're right about that. I'm looking at the chat here. I just wanted to run this real quick because Carlos Duro was he said, what do you think about some of the channels that are skyrocketing in subscriptions and clout? Do you think that you are fundamental in that success? I think that in a lot of them I was, and I'm flattered by that. I'm glad. I've said this in the past is that I think the red pill needs to be open source, and that's the best way that I can say that. I mean, it's one thing to go and pick up my book and like read it verbatim and plagiarize everything out of it and say, oh, I wrote this. That's one thing. But for the most part, there's nothing I can really do about that because a lot of the ideas that I have expressed and articulated over the course of almost 20 years right now, I'm glad I'm glad they're having success with that. I'm glad that they're spreading these ideas because that's what I originally started out with. You got to remember, I've never monetized my blog. I've sold books, right? I don't have, maybe it's sooner or later I'll do a class or something like that. I've gone and done some talks, but I pretty much am just an author at this point with respect to all this. And I do, I've got a YouTube channel, and really I do that for engagement more than anything else because people have questions.
Right.
When I'm at conventions and stuff, I think I do way more talking with guys at conventions, in the foyer or in the lobby or in the bar and the grill or whatever with guys than I do actually for the 1 hour or so that I'm on stage, talking about something. I'm usually there just having group chats with guys. And I realize that guys want to have that, and they're going to take that and they're going to take that information and they're going to go do stuff with it. And I'm glad that they do, because then that helps, you become the change you want to see in the world. So I'm glad for that. I think there's some upsides and there's some downsides to that. The upside is that I'm glad guys are unplugging. I'm glad guys are sort of opening their eyes. As I've said before, what I do is I offer tools, like tool sets, right? This is what you can use to build yourself a new life or build yourself into something else. I don't give you like 12 rules for life or any prescriptions or like, here's my formula for success kind of thing. I just work here, I just show guys what it is that I'm like, here's what I'm relating to you. Here's what my ideas are. Let's talk about it. Very similar to how I was when I was talking in the forums. That's, I think, is how you can have like it's like the marketplace of ideas, right? You have to have guys come together so that you can discuss these things and say, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. So as you were saying before, what do you think of these beefs and everything that's going on in the Manosphere? That's unavoidable. You're always going to, in fact, I would be I would not be doing my job if there weren't beefs, if there weren't people who disagree with other people, because you have to have that back and forth. Because if you don't, then you can't test the strength of that idea if people don't go, you're full of crap, or, okay, fine. If you think I'm full of crap, tell me why. And then I will tell you why I think that this is a good idea or this is not a good idea. We take that, we refine that, and we turn it into something that's better than it was before, if that's what it needs. So I'm totally fine with that. It's when guys like take it and then use it as like the downside, I think, or the inherent risk of the red pill becoming sort of mainstream. And I've talked about this with Myron and the guys from Fresh and Fit and everything else, is that it kind of gets watered down, or it becomes kind of this formula or this template, and guys will use it to sort of provoke guys who really want sort of this indignation, or they want this kind of a rise, or they want what we call red meat. It's one thing when somebody is talking about ideas. It's another thing when you're repeating the same thing over and over again because it gets eyes on a screen or because it's popular at that moment. And then once it's not, they'll move on to the next thing. And I think that we run a risk of the actual integrity and the ideas of the red pill getting watered down because we're more interested in creating our own personal brands or our own YouTube channel or whatever else it is. And so over the course of, like, say, the last 15 years or so, I've kind of like gotten a better feel, I think, for guys who it's like, I'm talking to the man or I'm talking to the brand. So if the red pill for you is all about you as the man, then I'll go on your show. Like, I don't care what your viewership is. I don't care what your channel is like. If you're about the red pill because it's about your own personal development and you're in it for the genuine reasons, that's another thing. If I just talk to you and all I get back is brand, buy my Gumroad, course. Here's my next, Kajabi class, whatever it is. If that's all the guy's about, I'm not saying that's anything bad with that, but if that's all you're about, if all you're about is brand, then that's when things get watered down. And I think that guys who are just coming into the red pill sort of get a bad taste in their mouth from it. And that I don't want it to be something that turns guys away. I want it to be something where guys go, what's going on here? Or like you just said a minute ago, is I always knew these things were like true, but I could never put them into words. I have guys tell me that all the time. It says, I knew what you're talking about. I just could never articulate them in the same way that you are right now. That curiosity, that kind of hunger for knowledge, that's what I want. That's what I'm after. And so I don't care if you're Kevin Samuels. I don't care if you're Avi Kingdom, whatever. It just makes no difference to me, as long as that's where your mindset is at and what you're hungry for that knowledge. I'm all about it.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, Rollo, well, first off, what was the year you started making content on YouTube? How long has that been? I have
only my channel on YouTube is maybe 2 years old now. Maybe 2.5, not even that long. Like Rich Cooper's been around since I think 2015. I just got into doing this seriously back in I think 2018 with Pat Campbell, and Pat was the one who kicked me in the ass to do it. So, and that was just us kind of talking, because I was on Pat Campbell's show, who's a terrestrial radio show host in Oklahoma and in Tulsa, and he said, a lot of the guys that listen to me want to listen to more of what we had to talk about. Because when I was on his show, I could only be on there for like 30 or 40 minutes. And so people would always ask questions and would just like hammer us with questions on Twitter and everything else. And so he said, let's do a show for an hour or so where we answer questions. And so I started the Rational Male, or Rollo Tomassi Rational Male, on YouTube, and then just snowballed into where it is right now. And I'm almost at like 90,000 subs right now. So I'm just this side of 100,000 subs.
Yeah, you'll hit 100,000 by my birthday on the 24th. We're gonna manifest it.
I hope so. I would like, I tell you, the thing that gets me though is like I was talking with Fresh from Fresh and Fit, and they're already up and over 100,000 already. And I told them, I said, I'm glad I'm kind of doing this slowly and organically right now, because once you get past 100,000, that's when YouTube kind of takes notice of you. And they like assign a handler to you, and they call it your personal YouTube, liaison or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want that. I'm kind of happy being just this side of like 100,000, but it's going to happen sooner or later. And when it does, I'll just roll with it.
That's dope. I started in 2018, so it's 3 years as of last month for me. Mm-hmm. But I started up as an uploader. So I was doing all those car videos and all of that stuff at first. And my channel was called Dominance Mindset and Raw Game Api Kingdom initially.
Mm-hmm.
And people were making fun of it, so I just changed it. It says, so
I think I became familiar with you through John from Modern Life Dating. I think you were a regular on his show, or it was either that, or you with Donovan, or you with Lucario for a while too. And I every once in a while I will lurk on the chat with Lucario.
I'll be talking about you.
Yes, I lurk in the chat there every now and then. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, just say what's up, Elise. That's it. I get it though, because sometimes once you say what's up, then people want to start talking to you, and you're like, I'm just trying to listen to this shit. I don't feel like, what's up, John? What's up, Reese? What's up? But yeah, from now on, it's so.
I like Lucario a lot. I watch AMS too now and then. He doesn't post as much as he used to. I think he used to be a lot more active than he was, and I like watching his stuff for a while. And then of course Myron and Fresh took off. And I've been friends with them for a long time. Like where Myron is part of Rule Zero for a long time, and now like they're all focused on Fresh and Fit podcasts, and more power to them because they got a lot on their plate right now. I think they need more people. They need handlers. They need secretaries. They need people to do scheduling for them.
and then where they're at, it's a hot spot too. So
it is
a combination of both.
I'm going to be there in June. I'm going out there in second weekend of June. So 11th through the 13th, I'll be in Miami, and then I'll be out there. That'll be the weekend, and then I'll probably come back like the 18th or something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about going to Vegas on the 4th for the CME.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about it today to check that out. Because I just like supporting positive stuff. That's what people like. What drew me, I mean, I was already a fan of your work, but what really drew me into you was when I would be on the webinars and you have real high frequency energy and it's very positive. And I like the way, you was watching me, I was watching you too.
Yeah. I've known about you for so long. And I'm like, man, I'm going to go on that guy's show.
Always, I like the way you talk to the guys. Because to me, it's like, I teach elementary currently, right?
So, okay.
Yeah, but I've taught high school, all grades and stuff like that. So you just doing that, it automatically teaches you to like sit back and evaluate because people are motivated and demotivated differently. So it's like this guy, he can be an asshole, and I could be like, man, you just don't get it, and all of that. That can make him go even deeper into the you know what I mean? That's not the way needs to be communicated to. He needs to be sat down, just like women. Sometimes women, they like the sweet talk. That's the talk. You can, hey, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Then I like to respond to that. And then some of them, it's like, hey, come here. And you try to do, hey, they like when I went to New York for the first time, that's the worst I did in dating. When I went to New York, it probably took me like 10 attempts before I got a phone number because I'm very just soft smoking and smooth. And and they were just darting right past me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. When the movies, and they be like, hey, shorty, hey, mom, that's their language.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just for TV until I was actually there. And it's like, oh, you kind of got to be like this old laid back. Hey, baby, come in.
Yeah.
They don't understand that. And that's just how it is.
No, that's funny. That's and I've said this on a few of my essays. And I think I might have even done this in my second book. Is there's a concept of what's called being domain dependent. And I think a lot of guys, when it comes to game and stuff like that, they become like one trick ponies. They know what works for them in one setting, in one environment, in one type of girl, in one region, in one city. And they make it work for themselves. And then they think, well, this is the way it works with everybody. It's like, no, it doesn't. It depends on the context, and you become domain dependent. So either game is game everywhere, or you're just going to stay localized and wonder why things didn't work for you in New York and they did work for you in Miami, or they work for you in Butte, Montana, and didn't work for you in Southern California. Whatever the situation is, and that comes with experience, and that comes with being able to read, like understanding the situations, the social situations that you're in. And I think one of the biggest problems that most guys have, and I don't care what region of the manosphere you come from, One of the biggest problems with most guys today is an inability to read social cues and to understand language and to understand what's like the sub communications is a real big deal. And a lot of guys who get into game or get into the red pill or get into Manosphere stuff, or they want to become the best versions of themselves, that really starts with understanding like social cues and becoming and getting more social intelligence. And I was just talking about this on Wednesday. I was talking about the adolescent social skill set and how I was talking about women particularly, but guys as well, is they never mature past a certain stage. And so their skill set, their social skill set stays in their high school years, right? It stays when they're like 18, maybe 18 or 19 is as far as they get. And they never have an occasion to develop social skills that are like adult human being social skills that have been for generations, have been something that we just sort of take for granted. And now, because I sound like I've got a lot of common sense, or you got somebody like Mike Rowe, or you got myself, or you got like, Rich Cooper or whatever, and they're looking at us like the dads they never had. And it's like, no, we just understand social situations. Yes, we're a little bit more mature. We've got more years, we've got more mileage on us, but it's understanding those social cues and understanding where you are at that particular place in that particular time, and then going with it and being able to sort of fluidly read those cues and then act accordingly.
That's facts. I got two. Hey, if you guys got a question, put it in the super chat list. It's just really good at catching, because I got my own questions. I just can't be getting every little one. Hey, where'd you get your hat, Rollo?
I got it in Vegas, actually. Since the Raiders moved since Allegiant Stadium opened up, now I guess I have to be. I live in Reno, Nevada, but I do a lot of work down in Vegas.
Right. What I want to ask you, Rollo, is like, how is it different? Like for me, and you know what? Shout out to whatever consult, because I was on a consultation, and the consultation taught me something that I didn't even know about myself. So basically, it was like, I was consulting somebody about writing a book, and we were structuring the book and this and that. And basically that what I come to, and I was just like, damn, you know what? YouTube was a gift for me. You know why? Because, and I'll even ask you, what's the main thing that stops people from writing and publishing books?
I'll tell you the main thing that stopped me for a long time was, a lot of guys will say this, and I hear this all the time. You'll get this from like the success porn kind of guys like Tony Robbins, where they'll say, you got to dig down deep and find this confidence that's down in your soul or something. I'm like, no, you don't. You just have to think you got to be conceited to some degree. You got to say, you know what I have to say is important, and so important that I think people would read a book about it. And that was the hardest part for me, because I'm like, who the hell am I? I'm just this guy. I'm just this Yahoo on the internet, right? I'm just this guy who's in a forum that I'm glad people like me and they follow me and everything else. And I've got quite the followership now on YouTube and Twitter. My Twitter is almost at 90,000. My YouTube, I'm just this side of 90,000. And to me, that's a big deal. To somebody like Rich Cooper, who's at like 500,000 subs, you're like, yeah, well, I'll see you when you get here, kind of thing. And so for me, like, again, it's all about sort of believing that somebody would actually want to read what it is that I put onto paper, and that it's important enough. And I think that guys, especially in creative writing, like writing fiction and stuff like that, man, that takes balls. Because what that says is, I think I'm good enough that people will want to buy my creative, ideas, and maybe even possibly turn them into a Netflix series, right? Or actually, have a series of books, or maybe it turns into Game of Thrones, maybe whatever. I think that having the initial, it's not fear. Guys I think we make too much of a big deal about, I'm afraid of success. Nobody's afraid of success. They just are afraid that that they don't have the qualifications to be like a psychologist, or to be an artist, or to be a writer, or to be a musician. And you know what? All you have to do is you have to have balls. You just have to go, yeah, I think people would want to hear what I have to play on my guitar. I think people would like to read what it is that I would do. And that was my biggest thing, is because when I was writing it, I'm like, and I did that. I even kind of choked a little bit on my fourth book, right? Because I was like, are people really going to want to read this? And they do, because they want to, read the next book from Rollo Tomassi. But I want to be able to draw new readership. I want people outside the Manosphere to pick up the rational male. I want people outside the manosphere. And that's why I deliberately targeted, I got right here. That's why I deliberately targeted religion for a religious audience. And I listed it on Amazon in religious studies and in the hopes that people who are kind of outside of the manosphere would read it and go, what's this all about? You know, because a lot of people will hear about the red pill, or they'll hear something negative, or it's misogynist, or it's chauvinist, or those guys they're whack. It's a cult, right? Don't even read that stuff. I'm hoping that some guys will read this and go, you know, there's a lot of things I see going that are a little weird at my church right now. I want to read this thing called The Rational Male and see what he has to say. Or I'm in a divorce, or my wife won't have sex with me. I'm going to read The Rational Male because I found him through another source, or I found him through Rich Cooper, or I found him through his religion book, and now I want to read the first book. So it's kind of like this process that I'm always like, I want to break out of the manosphere, not because I hate the manosphere, not because I don't think it's always going to be home. But I think that we need to sort of like put our extensions out. That's why I like when we're talking about like the Black manosphere, when we get out into, you know, different ethnicities. I think there should be a Latin manosphere. I think there should be an Asian manosphere. You know, I think we should be able to sort of branch out into other areas, because there's guys who've never heard of the red pill in terms of intersexual dynamics who need this stuff. And there's sort of this barrier, this kind of like fourth wall, I guess. And really all it takes, like guys will ask me this all the time. They'll say like, Rollo, I want to write a book, or I want to start a forum, or I want to start a blog. And I'm like, you know what the best thing you do? Just do it. Like have enough, like, you know, ass in your britches to say, you know what, I think people would want to read this. So this is what I'm going to do. And who knows? I think there's definitely more room for more voices.
And speaking of voices, shout out to Red Pill Chauvinist channel. So that's my brother. We met in real life. He been up in this house. He's living in New York. So that's how we connect. See? And he got his debut book. He wrote the foreword for mine. I wrote the foreword for his. And this is how we do. And
how many people have you met in real life from like the manosphere, or from like doing what you're doing?
How many? I don't know. About you talking about just other content creators, or just
like, I mean, face-to-face content creators, like people who are fans of your work, people who watch you?
20?
About 20? Yeah.
But I've met guys who watch the content in real life too.
I think what's interesting is like whenever I go and I do a talk, one of the first things I always ask people is like, how did you find my work? Like, how'd you come into this? And I mean, I've met a lot of people as a result of doing all this stuff, but it's, when I look at the amount of my readership, and I look at the amount of, like, you know, I'm playing to anywhere between, you know, 1,500 to 2,000 people doing a live stream. And then I look at, you know, Fresh and Fit, and they're playing like 6,000 live viewers all the time. And you have to remember that just the people who are like in the chat or talking to you or engaging with you, they have to sort of decide that they're going to have the balls to actually go up and approach you and talk to you. But they're like a fraction of the actual viewership that you have. And I think that a lot of, especially content creators, have to remember that you have much greater reach than you believe that you actually do.
Right. See, Rollo, like for me, that's why I know we're the same, bro. Like I paint. I'm a painter.
Mm-hmm.
I like taking pictures. I wrote 8 books. I wrote 8 books and published in 1 year. But none of the books are the same. The first book is a mindset book. The second book is a dating book for women. The third book is this book for men. Fourth book is about relationship. Fifth book is personal development. I got a workbook coming. So it's like it's all reaches. Even YouTube, brother. Like I have this channel. This is my main channel, but I also have a wrestling channel because a lot of people watch wrestling. I have a retro gaming channel. And I got a food channel with my dogs. And people think it's silly. And it's like, no, I'm opening up lanes for myself. I'm an interesting guy. I can't help it that you guys only care about the small section of the dating part because I'm an expert in it. I can teach you how to upgrade your life and your mindset, or I can teach you how to get one night stands. I can teach you both, but what's more important to you? And that's like key. But the other thing about the stuff I wanted to ask you, like, how did you feel about because, like, for me, what I was saying about the consultation, the lesson that it taught me, because the most thing that I've experienced people are afraid of is scrutiny, right?
Oh, yeah.
Scared of what people think, correct? So the cheat hack was Doing YouTube first got me used to scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
Oh,
easy for me to write my book because I was already used to people talking shit anyway.
yes.
So that's a hack, right?
Yes.
So
I joke around with Ryan and Rich and some of these other guys because it's like I most of my haters are really kind of, and I don't mean this in the derogatory sense, but they're retarded. They're like clinically retarded, like in the clinical sense. And I mean that in the sense that their maturity has been retarded. Their mentality has been retarded. They tend to be very pathological. They tend to, you know what they say is like the best liars in the world are the liars that believe their own lies. Like that's the kind of hater that I end up getting, which is usually this guy, and if, you know, again, for lack of a better term, is really kind of autistic, and they're very literalist. So you can't use like allegory, you can't use like metaphors with them because they will pick apart the metaphor and not get what it is that you're saying. And that's one of my biggest frustrations because I'm an artist too, right? I like to use prose when especially if you've read the first book, you know that. Like I use a lot of $10 words because I don't write down to my audience. I expect my audience to be intelligent enough to understand what I'm talking about. And the English language is a very rich language, but we use maybe a fraction of like 15%, 20% of the actual English language that exists that we should, I don't see why we don't use.
Right.
But that's just me as a writer. I can't expect everybody to be. I have to be accessible. So therefore, I have to sort of make my writing engaging enough and understandable enough. So, and I'm willing to do that. But I told the guys, I said, we need better haters. Right. I want haters to say, let me tell you why hypergamy is wrong. Let me tell you why relational equity is wrong. Like if I have like a founding principle, or if I have something that is like a big deal for like my way of like the ideas that I express. If you hate me, hate my ideas first and then come at my ideas. Don't like say, oh man, he's got a ponytail and he thinks he's a rock star. Come on, man. I mean, if that's what you got, then like, or people will say this to me, and they probably do the same thing to you, is they'll say, you need to debate this guy. And I'm like, okay, I'll be happy to debate them. What's the topic of the debate? You're a cult leader. That's not a debate. That's your opinion, man. What are we talking about? Like, what do you disagree about that I have talked about in any of my work? And we will debate that. Tell you, I'm happy to sit there for 2 hours to debate you on topics. But if you're going to have me on there and go, let me tell you why you're a phony and a fake, I'm like, okay, that's an opinion. That's you attacking me as like attacking that's you poisoning the well is what that is. That's a lousy debate technique is what that is, because you don't have any counter arguments. So when people like grab my book or whatever, even my haters will use my book to describe certain things when they're not talking about me. They'll still, the guys who hate me the most, still you refer to the alpha widow, war brides, whatever about hypergamy and whatever, like especially the buzzwords that I've used over the years. They'll still be happy to use those, and they don't even know that they're using them because they have no idea where they came from. They don't have a background in it. Do you want to get to these? You want to get to Topaz and Recipe?
Yeah, let me get to Topaz. Let me just say real quick. I've had people like try to dox me and stuff like that. And for me, the mindset, how we talk about, it's like you've already lost. I'm living my life and you're editing my content. I have energy in your brain. Like, so it doesn't matter what you say. I'm living my life, going to work, playing with my dogs while you're analyzing my content, making edits to show people. It's like, no, I won now. Like,
yeah. That's what a lot of these guys think is a good use of their time.
Right.
And my not to bring anything down, but my mom passed away back on December 3rd of last year, and I spent most of 2020 talking to my mom from behind the screen of a window. And I would seriously drive an hour and a half down there so I could sit there with her for an hour or so and just talk to her and everything. I could not see her. Even when she died, I could not see her because of the lockdowns and COVID and everything. And that sort of like was a bucket of like cold reality for me, because I was like, this is life, right? It's very short. It's very finite. You only have so many hours in a day. You only got so many days in your lifetime here. What do you choose to do with all that time, right? I have written 4 books. People say, oh, where's your receipts? Right here, man. I got 4 receipts right here. I've got 20 years of receipts. I've got ideas that even my haters still use as receipts. Right. But but as you were saying before, it's like these guys will meticulously try to dox you, try to pick you apart, try to tell you you're a charlatan or whatever, and they will like make a career off of just basically talking shit about you all the time. I'm used to that. I get that. Because that they don't have any that like that to them is a good use of their time. That to me seems like when at the end of your life, it's not going to be your accolades. It's not going to be the trophies on your shelf. It's going to be your body of work. And if your body of work is just talking shit about people for the rest of your life, you're a fart in the wind, man. Nobody that's the best way I can ever describe that. But nobody's going to remember that, but they will remember this. They will, like, people will still be reading these books after I'm gone and using my terminology and using the idea. You're still talking and discussing the ideas that I brought. You'll be remembered for your ideas before you will be remembered for all the shit you talked about other people.
That's facts. Let me get to Topez's question. Have you met women who understood and respected the game, and how did you know they were genuine?
That's always an interesting topic because I do actually have female viewers. And I'll tell you what's funny is my most of my haters are not women. They're not feminists. I don't get run up the flagpole by was it Valenti or whatever, Christiana Valenti, whatever, whoever the leading feminists are. I don't get run up the flagpole for them. It's usually from within. It's usually guys who are just grinding their teeth because they're stuck in neutral. For women, it's you can tell women stuff, but they tend to sort of, you reach what I call the point of diminishing returns with women, because women usually start an argument or start a debate or like a conversation even from an emotional center. Men tend to start from a rational, reasoned center, unless it's anger or they're pissed off at somebody, right? But for guys, when they're talking about particularly red pill ideas, they're usually starting. That's why I call it the rational male. You're starting from a rational center. Whereas for women, if women are the topic of it, women don't like to be told unflattering truths about themselves that the red pill reveals. It's not that you're trying to be a dick about it. It's not that you're trying to say, oh, you guys are, I know some people, like some channels, make a living off of that because it feels good for the guys who are going, yeah, finally, hold her accountable. Okay. But that doesn't solve anything. That doesn't convince women of anything different. You're not going to change their lives. They're not going to go, oh, okay, I'm going to rethink my life because you said that. It's usually because they're starting from an emotional center. And they get to a point where you can say things reasonably and rationally to them and say, here's the truths that your dad never told you. Here's the truths that your church, your pastor, or whatever never told you. And here's where you're at, and here's why you're where you're at. Well, for women, it's usually they get to a point where they get upset and they say, well, I guess I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life, and then they believe in magic and hope and that at some point, Prince Charming is going to come along and save them from themselves. And for the vast majority of them, it doesn't happen. But you have to, I think a lot of women have criticized. Here's what I get mostly from women. If you changed your tone, women would listen to you more. Right. If you were just like set everything with like sugar on top and a cherry on top and you made it sweet and you made it nice, and then women would listen to you more. And it's like, no, it's not the tone. It's what I'm saying. And that's so when women are critical of me, I have to say that it's like, it's not the context. It's not the way I'm expressing it to you. I can say it to you in a monotone. I can say it to you in like the text to speech, like read my text kind of thing. I could say it just like this all the time. I could say it exactly as neutral as possible, and you'll still get upset because what I'm relating is unflattering and it's hard for women to accept. And I think a lot of guys will say, well, how do we change things? How do we change society? I say you start with women who are much younger. You start with your kids. You start with your daughters. Tell them what they can expect and give them a overview, because what happens is women get, especially young women, and I learned this from Fresh and Fat, I learned this from my own daughter, right, is they'll get into a state where they're always looking at things from an emotional perspective, and they are only seeing what's in front of them right now, immediately. This is how I feel. This is how things are. They prioritize feelings, and they think that those feelings should guide them to the right decisions. No, they don't. You need to use your head, follow your heart, and it will never fail you. Bullshit.
Right.
Your head, see what's going on, look at the statistics, look where you're going to, where do you want, how many times, I don't know how many times I would have, like, I see the girls on Fresh and Fit. I would love to ask them, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? What do you want? How do you want your life to have turned out when, like, you're 22? What do you think life's going to be like when you're 32? I don't think anyone has asked them that, or they have never put any really critical thought into it because they're too busy enjoying their peak sexual market value years. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it ain't broke, don't think about it. And I think that's the real problem is that when women are red pilled, it's tough because now they are responsible and become accountable for the actions that they haven't even, or the decisions that they haven't even made yet. Mm-hmm. So it's like when I say, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Oh, with a baby and this and that. Okay, well, if that's the case, you need to start making some decisions for yourself right now if that's where you want to be in 10 years. Mm-hmm. They don't want to think about that because they're enjoying the fruits of being, 22 years old and not thinking it. They don't see the forest for the trees, right? They're only seeing the trees. They're only seeing what's immediately right in front of them instead of having this sort of God's eye view of understanding that the moment that you're in right now between, say, 18 and 28 or 18 and 24, something or whatever that demographic is, that's a very brief fraction of your life. If you are like average age of a woman, women die at 90, right? Let's just round it off. So from 0 to 90 years, you have maybe a window of 10 years to maximize all of that. And the rest is you looking for security, trying to find a husband, trying to find that long-term security for a very, very long time. And you need to understand that most women are, especially when they're younger, they don't see that. And then they pretend like they were caught off guard or nobody ever told them this, or they just never understood it that way. When Kevin Samuels tells them at 33, you're average at best. And they'll, what? How dare you? Nobody's ever said that to them. That's why they get outraged and they get upset about that kind of stuff, because nobody told 32-year-old girl you're average at best. At the 22-year-old, they never said, you're going to be average at best if you don't make some decisions right now.
That's facts. Let me see. My man Bagley has a question. Shout out to you, Bagley. Good to see you in the chat. He says, I've been seeing some backlash versus the RP community. Rollo, has any air of backlash always been present?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I've said this before. I've said this on my own channel on Rule Zero as well, is that I see this stuff come in cycles. I've been writing what I've been doing since 2002. At least that's like my earliest posts on SoSuave. The SoSuave forums. So I'm coming up on like 19, almost 20 years doing this. And yes, the backlash comes around in phases. So like I remember when people were giving me grief about my falling out with Roosh. And it wasn't me falling out with Roosh. It was me holding Roosh accountable to what he was doing at that time. And then he blew me off and all of his troops came at me. The first time I got doxxed was not by a feminist. It was from within the Manosphere. It still is today. I don't get doxxed by feminists. I don't get doxxed by the woke crowd. I don't get doxxed by people trying to cancel me. The only people who've tried to cancel me have been from within the Manosphere. Always. And it's always guys that try to do this. It's not women. Like what I find ironic about this is because it comes in cycles, I see this. It's like every 4 to 5 years, maybe 3 to 5 years, somewhere around there. And so what happens is these guys will get upset at what you're saying because it doesn't lock in, or they don't find the success that they think. That it's not the red pill's not like the magic pill that they thought was going to fix their lives, and they didn't realize they actually had put some work into it. So what they do is they get angry at the messenger, and they try to take down the messenger as a result. And there's not a lot that you can do about it. But what I think is the most ironic part of this is like these are the same guys who will criticize YouTube or Patreon or Twitter for canceling certain voices or like trying to squelch out the people that don't carry like sort of a political or whatever the social narrative that's going on. They use exactly the same tactics, exactly the same things that they the canceling techniques and the methodologies, exactly the same thing. Everyone is a social justice warrior. It just depends on what your definition of social justice is. Mm-hmm. So when people say, well, I'm not Antifa, I'm not woke. Okay, well, it's fine. but you still have an idea what you think should be justice. And so even from within the manosphere, like I said, there's a lot of guys who are clinically retarded. They have this, they are in this inability to read social cues. They have a lower social intelligence. Those are the guys who are going to end up being the haters at some point. And again, they will resort to the same tactics that the woke mob that they claim to hate will use over and over and over again.
What would you say? I want you to explain. I kind of feel your energy. Like, I think mindset is not stressed enough.
No,
we always stress. You need some game. You need some game. You need some. Dude, if you have game and you meet a woman that you're really into, game goes down.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you here. Let me blow your mind. Everyone you know has game. Every person that you know, if you know a kid who's 10 years old, that boy has game. He's got game of how effective that game is.
Right.
Is what we can talk about the quality of that game. But everyone you know, from the time they're even like 8 or 9 years old, has some idea of how to get a girlfriend or how to get a boyfriend. Right? They learned it through Disney and Pixar. Right? They learned it from social media. They learned it from popular culture of some way. You ask a 10-year-old boy, how do you get a girlfriend, Johnny? And Johnny knows that, well, you got to carry her books home from school and you got to be nice to her. And he will start rattling off all this stuff that you'll hear on like Dr. Phil and Oprah and God knows, whatever daytime talk, The View, right? Whatever the talk show is. Now, how effective that is nonsense. But the thing is that kid thinks that he knows, well, when I get my shot, here's what I'm going to do. And a lot of guys, that's how you get blue pill game. That's how you get guys who think that, well, this should work. And then they realize that it doesn't work. Or maybe it worked for this girl and she cheated on him and he doesn't understand why, because his game only got him to a certain point. So when we're talking about like mindset, first of all, there's game and then there's mindset. So when people ask me about like, well, what is alpha? They'll come up with some definition of what alpha is according to what they think best fits them. So if I am a youth pastor at my church or something like that, an alpha is the guy who is an upstanding member of the community and he leads in the church and he has his own business and he's like Superman, right? He's that good guy. He's Captain America. He's that good alpha. And then when I say, well, what about the alpha males that women that women adore and they're gang leaders or they're drug dealers, right? Or they're in prison and they're trying to break that, the woman is trying to break the guy out of prison so that they can live happily ever. Is that guy an alpha? No, it's because it doesn't fit his definition of alpha. But to that girl and to women, dark triad personality traits, that's very alpha to her. And that's what gets her off. And that's what she wants to have. It's like 50 Shades of Grey. Why was that one of the top selling books of, the last decade? Because because alpha is not a demographic. It is a mindset. And that's where we come back to mindset. Is like alpha is a mindset, is not a demographic. So there are criminals who are alpha. And there are guys who are like Superman and Batman are both alphas. Okay. Superman stands up for truth, justice, and the American way, right? Batman is the Dark Knight. And he's a vigilante and takes things into he takes matters into his own hands and gets shit done, right? Same thing with Captain America. He's the good guy alpha who's like ready to do the right thing. And then you have Tony Stark, Iron Man, who is still an alpha and still kind of a good guy, but he does things kind of arrogantly and personally, but he's still an alpha. So when it comes to what's alpha, what's good game, what's bad game, it's all here. It all begins right here. And this is the one thing that guys in the MGTOW community, Black Pill community, looks maxers and everything will never understand is that I don't care how good looking you are. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how what your status is. You can still be very blue pill and be very good looking. You could still be very blue pill and still be very beta and have a lot of Jeff Bezos. Great example. Very, very beta. Richest man in the world is one of the worst betas in the world as well. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He doesn't have any reason to think, why isn't my game working? Why doesn't Jeff Bezos live like Dan Bilzerian? Because Dan's more alpha than Jeff Bezos is. Now you can say, well, he pays for his chicks, whatever. Okay, whatever. But his mindset is different, much different than Jeff Bezos. So it comes back to what your mindset is really about. It's like, is my mindset mental point of origin? Am I the first thing that I think of when I have to make decisions? Am I is my narrative, is my life the most important thing in the world first, and then other people's lives become important to me? Like, it's not that my wife isn't important. Like, I'm just this personal, this individualist, selfish prick. It's, I think of me first, the decisions that I need to make. How do these circumstances and decisions affect me? And then how does it affect my wife? How does it affect my daughter? How does it affect my dogs? How does it affect, other people in my life? And again, I always say this on every podcast, but I'm a proponent of enlightened self-interest. I cannot help anyone until I can help myself first. I cannot help others as well as when I help myself first. And that, I think, is part of the alpha mindset, is to think about how what is coming into you from the outside world, how you process that. Are you the first thing that enters into your mind, or is it someone else, or is it something else?
The first chapter. What's the first chapter?
Yep. Put yourself first.
I could have put get the girls and had this is the most important thing. Putting yourself first.
I think a lot of people have they're probably gonna have questions about this anyway, so I'll just answer it real quick. So people ask me about mental point of origin. When I talk about that, I don't mean just like, oh, put yourself first, or you're number one, right? You take care of number one first. That, I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but I'm saying mental point of origin is a subconscious thing. And we're taught from, like, boys today, at least the last 3, maybe 4 generations of boys today have been taught to be defective girls and to be serviceable, to be a utility, to be sacrificial, to be useful, like to have a usefulness to them, right? So you always have to think of somebody before. Stop thinking of others. You got to think of others before you think of yourself, right? How many times are we told that? We don't tell that to girls. We only tell that to boys right now. We don't say we don't say, Susie, you're being selfish. Start thinking about other people before you start thinking about yourself. We think about, like, what's best for her, and then we think, from guys, we think about that. How can that guy make everybody else's? How can that guy sacrifice more? He's the disposable sex, anyways. Your integrity, your respectability should be your serviceability, and I think that's bullshit. It's wrong, and it's something that we've been teaching our boys for really since the sexual revolution, but learning that you have to unlearn mental point of origin that has been taught to you since you were probably 5 years old, because systematically in Western cultures anyways, we teach boys to sublimate their self, to sublimate their egos, to push it down, and to think of others first, and to take care of others, and in some ways in the past that's been a good thing. But it's a bad thing if it means that guy ends up becoming, like, his life is basically one big sacrifice. And he wonders why he's suicidal. He wonders why he's been zeroed out when he gets to be 30. He wonders why he's bitter and angry and hates, and literally is a misogynist at that point, because things didn't work out the way that he was told they would if he followed this certain rule set. So you follow these rules, you do these things, you become what I call a beta in waiting, and you get to that point, and then you'll be rewarded, and the reward never comes. And the reason why it doesn't come is because your mindset is not about mental point of origin. It's not putting, like, when something comes into your life, you're the first thing that you don't go, I better think about me first. You don't, it's just automatic. It's your second nature. It becomes something that is internalized. And a lot of people don't realize that they have internalized mental point of origin that is outside of themselves, because they've been taught that since they were 5 years old, and they've never known anything different. So it's a radical statement when Rollo Tomassi says mental point of origin. The point of origin, when you're thinking a thought, you have to be that point of origin, rather than, it's not just about thinking about yourself, which is important, but it is about having that as your second nature, having internalized the idea that when you make a decision, it's coming from you first, and not, what is my wife going to think? What is my mom going to think? What is my family? What is my church going to think? What is my job? What's my boss going to think? No. What are you going to think? What do you want, and how does that decision affect you? When that becomes internalized, that's when you've hit mental point of origin.
Thanks. You probably see me going crazy when you was talking about the superheroes, because and a little cool explosion because let me rename those guys you said. Batman, Superman,
Captain America,
America,
Iron Man. Mm-hmm.
Which one's got the most chicks? Batman and Iron Man? Why? What do they have in common?
Yes.
What do Batman and they're the mysterious ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who do their own thing. There's Batman. There's no way Batman should have more chicks than Superman, but he do.
Mm-hmm.
Superman just got the one chick, and not only did he got the one chick, he's caping over her.
That's the mental. That's the mentality. That's the mindset. Right? You can still be alpha. You can still be a great guy. You can be Tony Stark, right? Again, these, and I hate to use comic book characters, but they serve, right? It is an archetype. That kind of alpha, that kind of man is one way. Superman is a one woman kind of guy, right? Captain America, he's just looking for a good wife and wants to settle down and be monogamous. Iron Man, Tony Stark, I mean, up until he meets Pepper Potts, he's nailing what the reporter chick and God knows, whatever.
Yes. Importantly, not he ain't nailing them like, hey, baby, I like you. I'm rich. You like me? No, they're coming to him.
They come to him. Yes. Yes. He doesn't have to make, he doesn't have to, it's funny to me is like, you look at like the archetype of Superman and Lois Lane, or you look at like Captain America and Agent Carter or whatever his love interest is. It's like, he's the one who's always having to qualify to her, and they are very alpha, but they're alpha in the sense that they're following a rule set. They're following like whatever their the popular culture is saying. This is the right thing. This is truth, justice, and the American way. Right? You're the good guy. You're lawful good, right? You're the good guy. Whereas Tony Stark, he's a good guy, does fight for for the right reasons. Batman, same thing, but a vigilante and lives life on his own terms. Still an alpha, but does things differently than the other guy does. And there's other variations of that too. I'm just using those as like the most obvious ones because we have them in popular culture. They've been around for forever, since before even Batman and Superman were around.
We're going to go real deep on the game. Watch when I ask you this. Is I be trying to teach these guys the stuff and they don't listen, Rollo, because they want the sex first. And I'm 40 years old, if you don't know. So even though I'm kind of slick, I'm an older cat, and I lost so much time chasing women and stuff, and not my purpose. So I be trying to tell these guys, like, just do both. Don't pick one or the other. You know what I'm saying? Like, so as far as you, can you give the guys 3, 4? Let's do 4. Let's do 3 and a bonus one of benefits of, because we always hear about what are not the benefits of relationship. Like to me, that's too much defense. My whole thing is I don't have any kids, and the reason why I can kind of be on some real high purpose, high level game is because a lot of guys not willing to live my lifestyle. What that lifestyle is, I'm comfortable being alone. That draws a line between a lot of stuff. Because it's just like I got a Ferrari that I don't want to sell. I don't have to compromise anything because I like doing what I'm doing now. So it's going to take a hard pull to get me up out of there. So for you, what I want to ask, just like 3 or 4 qualities and benefits of actually being in a relationship.
Sure. Okay, so I have been married. I'm coming up on 25 years. It will be in July that I got married when I was 20.
I'm gonna grab some water, Rollo. I'll be right back. I hear you.
Yeah, I was married at 28 years old. I was with she was my girlfriend then, but for about a year before we got married. I had just come out of a relationship that if you know anything about my history, is a borderline personality disorder girlfriend that I'd had. And I mean, it was the pit of misery. And so I was I didn't care at that point. Like I was just talking about mental point of origin and thinking about yourself. I was at that point, right? A lot of guys will say, well, the most pussy you'll ever get is when you're not thinking about it, right? When you don't try to, when you're not chasing after it, that's when girls come to you. That's true, but it's true for a reason. And the reason is that it's not that girls like find you irresistible because you're not going after them. It's because that you are thinking about yourself and you are about if you have ambition and you have something that is attractive to women in the long term, they will come after you, or you will manifest behaviors, I should say, that are more attractive because your mind has changed about yourself. First thing I tell guys is when they're coming into the red pill, or they want to be successful, usually it's like, how do I get a girlfriend, or how do I get my girlfriend back, or I'm a virgin and I'm 24 years old, how do I get laid, right? That kind of stuff. First thing you have to do is change your mind about yourself. Decide that. Remember what I told you about writing.
Hold on, Rollo. You can't just breeze that by. That's some real stuff. Say it to them with emotion. That's too good. That's a hack. That's what I call it.
You have to change your mind about yourself. Remember what I told you about? You asked me just a minute ago. You said, well, how did you get to write a book? Or like, what is it that pushed you over the edge? And I said, well, it was because I had to get at least conceited or arrogant enough to think that somebody would actually want to read what I had to say. Well, I had to change my mind about myself in order to write a book. I had to say, you know what? Up until that point, if you would have asked me that, like I published a book in 2013. If you would have asked me in like 2010, like, what do you think about writing a book, Rollo? I'd be like, do you think anybody would want to read it? Like, I would be curious to know that somebody would want to read it. Like, I'm looking for the sure thing, right? It's not about fear. It's that I have to be arrogant enough and cocky enough and conceited enough to think that anybody in planet Earth would actually want to read what I had to say. In 2010, I would have said no, because I had to change my mind about myself. And then by the time I got to 2013, people kept saying, dude, we really need this. When I resisted guys asking me to even start a blog, because I really wanted to just have the conversations I was having in the forum setting. And a lot of the stuff that's on my blog that ended up in my books, that ended up in everything that I'm even talking to you about right now, all started back in the forum setting where we're having these conversations about hypergamy, about relational equity, about war brides, anything that you've read that you kind of associate with me. All of that was sort of percolating in the early 2000s, because all I wanted to do was just talk about it and have these conversations. And people said, you need a blog. Roosh has a blog. Royce has a blog. You're the third R in the Manosphere. You need a blog too. Okay. 2011, I started taking those conversations and turning them into blog posts. It took off. It exploded. It was next to Roosh and Royce. My blog was a number 1 traffic blog it was a number 3 traffic blog in the Manosphere, and probably is up around 1 or 2 right now, because I'm the only one left. And so, but I had to have the balls, and I had to change my mind about myself to actually start a blog. Same thing when I had to start when I wanted to write a book. I'm like, do you think anybody would really want to read this? Well, I had to change my mind about myself in order for me to go and publish a book, or even have the balls to even start typing away at it, or like compiling a book. So you have to change your mind about yourself. You have to give yourself permission to change your personality and to become something that's more than what you are right now. So like you just said a second ago, Afi, you said, I'm 40 years old and I'm good being alone. A guy who's 21 right now probably doesn't feel that way. He probably has a different opinion about that because he's in a different spot. Whereas like when you're 40 years old, you know who you are, you know what you're about, you know where you want to go, you know what your passions and your strengths are, you know what your weaknesses are. And those guys don't know that. So they look for it and they think, well, if I had a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, if I had some kind of base of support, then maybe things would be different, and then I would be content. And they're looking for really some sort of security, some sort of sure thing and contentment. And you need to understand that you will never find contentment. There's no such thing as contentment. To be a human being is to be discontent. Simple as that. People say, well, you find it in God. Okay, fine. Go to church and you can be content in the pews. When you get out of church, you're discontent once again, because that's just how human beings are. And that's a good thing. It's good to be discontent. It's good to be discontent constructively, creatively. It's bad to be discontent destructively and throwing hate at people and tearing things down because things don't work out the way that you want them to. Rather than build, rather than find something creative in yourself to construct something from that discontent, to become something more, to get to the next highest plateau, to get that degree, to get that, to figure out, to learn that new skill, all that stuff. And once you've got to that plateau, you're looking at the next one. And you're okay, this is great. I felt good for about 6 months. I got here. There's the top of the mountain up there. Let's keep going. You get to the top of the mountain, you go, damn, it's a great, good mountain, but there's a higher one over there. Let's go get started, right? And it's and there's nothing wrong with that. especially with guys. I think a lot of people think, oh, just if I could just be happy all the time, if I could just be content. No, man, you want to be discontent. That's the part of it. You want to be working. You want to be constructing. You want to be building, and let that drive you. And I don't think a lot of guys, especially younger guys, really understand that. So keep that in mind as well. As far as, okay, so you asked me like 3 pluses or 3 things that are good with the relationship. Now, like I said before,
I'm gonna tell you, I'm keeping this highlighted too. It's super chat because the people who understand this, that's one. How many words is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's worth $1 million. What he said right there.
And most people don't
change your mind about yourself first. Quit asking for validation. Hey, you like this? You like this? Hey, I want to start at YouTube. What do you think? Stop caring what people think. You change your mind about you.
Personality is eminently changeable. It's eminently dynamic. You get to decide. Here's a great thing for you to think about. You get to decide who you want to be. You get to do that. You get to decide, okay, I'm going to be this way, I'm going to be that. And you know what? When you're pissed off and when you're upset and you don't like who you are, you've got two decisions. You can sedate yourself and destroy yourself, or you can build something else. You can create something new. You know where I got that from? I got that from Paul Stanley from Kiss. That's exactly what he said in his autobiography. Is like you can sedate yourself and you can wallow in your self-pity and you can stagnate and stay in one place and be self-destructive, or you can build. That's essentially what being content or being discontent is all about. I would much rather be constructively discontent than destructively content, than to be stagnating. Much, put me in a challenge. Give me some competition. A lot of guys, especially the last 2 generations, they're the participation trophy generation, right? They don't compete. They don't want to compete. Because I might lose. Yeah, you might. And then you know what? You learn from that and you become better and you master something beyond that. But that's might be a foreign thought to you. Most guys, especially men, are competitive. They're just competitive in ways that they don't realize that they're being competitive in. So you got the guys that we're going to complain about, like, oh, all you're all about is video games. Yeah, but when you're playing a video game, if you're playing Call of Duty with your friends online or something, you're competitive. You just don't think that you are. Like, I don't want to, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Yeah, but you're still competitive, and the juice would still be worth it if it wasn't for this squeeze or that squeeze, right? You still want the juice. You just don't want to do the squeeze. Well, the squeeze is worth it when you're playing Call of Duty. The squeeze is worth it when you're playing whatever your video game is. The squeeze is worth it when you're doing just enough to sort of get by, but it's not enough to get the things that you really want to get. Again, change your mind about yourself. Give yourself permission to change your mind about yourself. Most guys won't even do that because they're just like, they think that that's just who I am. This is just how I am. This is just how I was made. This is my MBTI letters. This is my astrological sign. This is my religion. This is how I was. I was just born this way. Bullshit. Give yourself permission to be something else, to be something more. That's really what, like, how did you get to be who you are? I just decided to do it. I stopped being sad and I started being awesome. I know it sounds like stupid, and it's like, it's almost Zen when you say something like that, but you have to give yourself permission to be someone else, and you get to decide what your personality is. Personality is not static. Who you are right now is not who you will be 3 years from now or 5 years from now. Certainly not 10 years from now. Hopefully you'll be better. I hope you live a very long life, but you will not be the same person in 2021 that you will be in 2024. So those are things to keep in mind. As far as relationships are concerned, I think that it kind of depends on the other person. I've described this as to have a good relationship is like playing mixed doubles in tennis, right? You can't win the game if you're not both playing against the opposite side of the court. If you're hitting the ball back and forth, if you're hitting the ball at each other all the time, you can't win the game. You have to have a team player. You have to have somebody who's there. And the other thing is this, is like, I would say that the only way that a relationship could be worth it in 2021 is if you are, as a man, you are the primary and you are the one you're the captain of the ship and you're driving the ship to where you want to go. You have to have the frame. You have to hold frame first and foremost. And to do so, you've got to have a world into which that woman wants to be a part of. That's number one. Number two is this: that woman must trust you with her life. I get this all the time. I think I was talking to Rich Cooper about this, and he said, "How do you vet for a wife, or how did you vet for your wife?" And first of all, I didn't. I vetted me for a wife. I said, "Can I be faithful to this person?" Because that, if I can't do that, there ain't no relationship. There ain't no relationship unless I can do that. Second of all, is does she trust me with her life? If I was to come home and say, "Honey, we're going to go skydiving, and we're going to go right now. We're going to get in the car. I packed your parachute for you. You're going to put it on your back, and we're all going to jump out of a plane together, and it's going to be great. It's going to be fun." Would your woman do that? Would she do that? Most women would be like, "Get the fuck out of here. I'm not trusting that guy to pack my parachute or trust him with my life." If that's the case, that's not the relationship for you. That's not even the relationship you want to have. She must trust you with, she won't trust you with the parachute, but she'll trust you with the kid to breed with her and to direct a child's life. Are you out of your mind? No, that's number two. Number three is genuine desire. I need to be number one, and I need to know every fucking day that I'm number one. More so than your family. I want to go live next to my folks. Nope. Next. I need to be number one when it comes to our kids, because the success of our relationship, the success of our marriage successful kids come from successful marriages. So you have to have that. You have to have that. And to do that, you have to have the frame. You have to be the one that she looks up to, and you can't have an equal relationship or an equal partnership, because no woman can look up to a man that is her equal. You cannot look up to a man, cannot admire a man who is her equal. Understand that. Get out of your head right now that you have an egalitarian equal partnership. No. Any woman that says that to you, or says that that's a criteria for her relationship, you're out. Bye-bye. Nope. I am the primary, and you let me know that I'm the primary every single day. And how can you make it better? How can you appreciate? How can you admire? If your woman doesn't admire, it's not respect, it's admiration. If that woman doesn't admire you, get out. You're done. There's no point in being in that relationship. And you need to make these decisions before you put a ring on it, before you have any kind of formality that's laden, because marriage is the number one worst decision a man can make right now. It has the most inherent risk. It has the most, and it is all downside for men, and women do not understand and never will appreciate the sacrifice and the absolute life damaging risk that a guy takes in saying, "Yeah, I'll marry you." That right there should be like Jesus Christ coming out of the clouds and giving you some holy, miraculous sign that a guy would ever want to engage in what's essentially an unconscionable contract. It is a contract that is so one-sided that anybody who would know what the actual terms and agreements are to that would never engage in it. And a guy still says, "Yeah, I'll do it because you treat me as the primary, you admire me, you trust me with your life, you trust me with your kids, right? And you are in my frame, you are in living within my world. Then maybe I'll consider marrying you." That's when women should be going, "Thank God I found a guy who wants me enough to risk everything." Because when women say, "Oh, men don't want to commit," no, you realize why they don't commit? It's because they're committing to an all downside. It's hell. They're saying, "You know what? If this doesn't work out, I go to hell." That's pretty much what it is. And women will never appreciate that because they think that they deserve it. That's just, it's this hubris. It's this entitlement that, well, men should always do that. They think that they're the primary from day one. The moment that you want to talk about true submission in marriage, that's what it is. Admiration. Do I have genuine desire for this guy? Do I trust this guy with my life and the decisions for the rest of my life? If you can't say that, don't get married. Don't even consider get married. And even if you are considering a long-term relationship, just think of it in terms of just like staying with her in the long term. Don't make it a contractual thing. Just like say, "Okay, well, I promise you I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be monogamous with you." Oh, and the other thing is that and there's one more criteria. The fucking kids have to be mine. End of story. I'm not taking care of any other kids. I don't care if I don't deal with single moms. Never deal with single mothers, first of all. And then second of all, those kids have to be my kids, and I will DNA test those kids. And if you have a problem with that, that's it.
Gangster Rollo! Let's do it! You having fun, Rollo? I told you it was going to be
paternity is a big fucking deal right now. And I think we're trying. We're conditioning generation of the last 4 generations. We're conditioning 4 generations of men to accept that their paternity, their last names. Another thing, you take my last name. End of story. You don't. Bye. So those are criteria for, here's how you have a good relationship. These are my terms and terms and agreements here. The kid's got to be mine. You take my last name. That comes with part of I trust you with my life. I want to be the guy that you say, I want to marry him. I want to have his babies. Not I'm not getting any younger and I need to have kids. You're out. Nope. If you say, I want to have your babies, maybe you're in at that point. If you say, I don't, if you hear a woman that says, oh, well, I'm 30 and I really need to get married and I really need to, I had my fun, no fun left for you, but I've had my fun. And so now I want to get serious. If a woman is saying that, she's out. If a woman says, you are the one that I want to be married to. I want to marry you. I don't want a wedding. I want to marry you. That when we personalize it, when it's like, you're the guy who is my ultimate goal in life. I want you. I don't want to be married. I want you. I want to be married to you, but I don't just want to be married to anybody. I want to be married to you. I want kids. No, there's a difference between I want kids and I want your fucking babies. Right? There's a difference between I need to be married because it's that time in my life and I need to marry this man because this man is like completes me or is, I trust him with my life and I admire him and I respect him and I love him, as much as a person can love another person. That translates to genuine desire. That's what I mean when I talk about genuine desire. It's not, I need a marriage. I need to marry you. Period. If a woman's not saying it to you,
webinar right now,
don't even think about it.
This is webinar game. This isn't YouTube game. We're giving y'all webinar game. Rollo, I'm gonna say one thing. The first thing, guys, guess what? I set Rollo up. You guys can use this for your dating too. There you go. It goes for dating too. We just gave you every single thing you need. All the time you thought, oh, I don't need all of that. No, it's for relationship. It's about the mindset and the dynamics of how and who you date. Let me tag myself in because I'm a wrestling fan to Rollo when he said the woman got to be willing to die for you. Let me give you guys a tip. The reason why your woman ain't loyal like that, because you want them to submit to you. You want them to listen what you say. You're not painting a picture for her in your future. What is she doing it for? Because you say so? No. It got to be for you guys. She has to see your vision the same way you see it.
It has to be a world into which she wants to enter into. Most women will never get that. Most women believe that they are, well, first of all, they believe in an egalitarian ideal, which is impossible. Human beings are not meant to be egalitarian. We're not meant for equality either. We're not meant to be equal partners, particularly in relationships, in romantic relationships. That is true whether you're in a heterosexual relationship or a homosexual relationship. There's always a dominant and a sub in every human relationship, whether you're gay or you're straight. There's a dom and there's a sub, okay? There's always a dominant personality and there's a submissive personality. So to believe in an ideal that is, we're just going to be 50-50, even Steven. You show me that relationship and I will show you a relationship where the woman runs that relationship because she will always have something over the guy, which is her pussy.
And just because your woman is still having sex with you and still cooking for you does not mean you in the game. She can still be checked out. Mm-hmm. But she's smart enough to put the covers over on you on the bed so you won't see it coming. Because she don't want you to fix it.
There's I think I got in this conversation with Rich one time when I was talking about does your woman trust you with her life? Now I'm being, facetious when it comes to pack a parachute, right? But there's other ways to determine that. Like there's other ways to say, well, you know, I won't here. I've got a great opportunity. I'll give you an example. Here's a better example. When I think this was back in like 2004, 2005, and I got a transfer from one company that wanted to we were in Reno and they wanted me to relocate out to Orlando, Florida, for, you know, because the headquarters was going to be moved out there. And they wanted me to come, and I wasn't about to turn it down. In fact, that was one of the first time, my first or second time I was really experiencing like a mental point of origin, because I didn't even think to say, oh, well, how's this going to affect my wife? How's it going to affect my kid? I took my wife out to sushi and I said, we're moving. And I said, I've got this great opportunity in Florida and we're going to go. And my wife didn't go this. She didn't say this. She did not say, well, what about me? What about my friends? My family's here. What about my mom? And that didn't even enter into the conversation. It was, you're my husband. When are we leaving? I go where you go. That's what she told me. I go where you go. And I trust your direction, basically. And when are we leaving? When do I have to make plans to do this? And we just went from there. It wasn't any this big agonizing, well, we're all equals. And what about my career? And what about your? Nope. Although that was the only conversation. And when I've related that before, women will lose their minds, because they'll go, well, what about you? You must really control her. She must really be under your thumb. And they can't understand that it is desire. She wanted to go. That's what she wants me. She wanted to marry me. She wanted to have a child with me. Not, oh, now it's time for me to have this. It's like when women say, it's time for me to be married. It's that time of my life. Now that I'm 30, I have to get serious and straight, right? I got to get right with God. I have to find a guy who's a good long-term prospect. No, you want somebody, ladies, you want something. You want a guy that is the guy that you want to be a part of, that you want that dude. Not any dude. Hey, come in here. I'm going to marry you. Hey, you look like you'd be a good breeding opportunity. Come over here. Right. There is a desire for that person. And then there's the idea that you are the primary thing in the universe, and that now it's time for the thing to be married. And now it's time for the thing to have babies. And you're not, I've talked about this in terms of women's solipsism, in that for women are innately solipsistic, meaning that as a survival evolutionary adaptation, women have to think of themselves that in terms that anything that exists outside of themselves exists to serve them or to hinder them in some way. So when a woman says, oh, well, my biological clock is ticking, I'm 30, it's time for me to have a baby. It's not, I want to have his baby. It's, any baby will do. Any guy will do, because I'm the primary. And so therefore I got to think about me first. That's how you get egg freezing. That's how you get sperm banks. That's how you get fertility clinics. That's how it's not about like your career. It's finding the right guy whom you want to have babies with. You're not finding that. Therefore you're going to go and solve that problem because you're the primary in your life instead of the guy who should be a primary.
That's facts. Let me get these super chats real quick. Rob Nash says, you know what, Rollo, when I started embodiment awareness, I found myself at home. I feel like I was at a mental point of my origin. Reasons why some guys aren't their own origins is due to childhood issues and the attachment theory. And then I see my man Tim in here. What you say, Tim? I think you just said it was just super fire. Okay, nothing but straight machine guns. That's what we do over here. See, isn't it a very positive interaction? The chat, everybody in here, and knowing this is like a family over here, bro.
Well, okay. I try to give tools, right? I mean, that's what I'm not here to, like, people go, they like angry Rollo, right? They like it when I get heated, or I'm like, I'm dropping, one-liners or whatever. And it's not meant to be, I'm glad you guys get excited over this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's nothing but machine guns. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm entertaining. But I also want guys to take this and use it for themselves. Better your life. How do I find a good girl, Rollo? This is how you do it. This is what you vet. How do I vet for a girl? Well, first of all, you don't think about getting married. Second of all, the girl that you like, I tell guys this, is that you shouldn't consider monogamy until you're at least 30 years old. It takes longer for it takes longer for men to mature into who they're going to be than it does for women. Women mature faster physically, faster, and they get emotionally. Yes, women mature faster than men, but they reach only a certain point in that maturation when it comes to emotion. For men, they go much further beyond that because they have occasion to do so. They have to. Men must become, women just are. So when we talk about a guy who is a high value dude, that guy had to become that. He had to earn that. He had to become respectable. That's why we have dominance hierarchies and competence hierarchies amongst men. That's why we have the general, and we have the lieutenant, and we have the corporal, and we got the private. We have those ranks of how that's naturally how we think about it when we talk about guys. For women, it's just women. We respect all women, right? We're supposed to believe all women, respect all women, but for men, they have to earn it. Those are two differing understandings when it comes to respect. Guys have to merit it. It has to be accredited. It has to. What have you done that makes you respectable? For women, you have a vagina. We better respect women because that's just how it is. Well, that's an egalitarian, communitarian way of understanding and approaching respect. For men, when we talk about merit and we talk about earning respect, I don't respect anybody who hasn't earned it. That's a male way of thinking about respect. So when you're talking in those terms, if you ever say, I've seen these videos, you've probably seen these videos, these kids, like, and they couldn't be more than 16, 17, 18 years old. And they're like, I respect women. I respect women too. And I respect women. And that's all they're saying. Like it's guy after guy after guy after guy, because they want to sort of pledge their allegiance to womankind. And it's like, that makes women hate that too, by the way, because it's like, because it means it's meaningless. It's valueless to them. It's only respect from a guy is only valuable to women if that guy is somebody she can respect as well. When somebody just gives out respect by default, then it becomes worthless. It's like attention that from a beta male. They don't, oh, I respect women. Okay, well, that's respect from a beta. If you're a guy who is respectable, and if you're the guy that other women want to fuck and other men want to be, that has much higher value than guys going, I respect women too. So it's like, guys just simply need to understand that men and women don't communicate the same way, and they don't approach certain things, certain like things like respect or things like love. Women and men have different approaches to love. Men view love idealistically. Women look at love opportunistically, and they have to. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay that they're like that. It's a feature, not a bug. Sorry, go ahead. What's Red Sings the Blues?
Shout out to Red Sings the Blues, because I got to read this, because I got to correct you, RSB. He says, Afi is my biggest rival. However, of a donation for both of you, Rollo. Do you still do stagehand? Because I still do. Just real quick, before you answer the question, Rollo, you're not my biggest rival, bro. I'm only in competition with myself. We're not rivals. I'm not in competition with Rollo either. We're all put here to do something great, bro. That's why the freeway have multiple lanes, because multiple people are going on each lane, fam. We're never rivals.
The red pill should and is, as far as I'm concerned, is open source. Mm-hmm. So it's about the tools. I hope that people I'm glad people are, as I was saying before, I'm glad people are entertained by this. And there's nothing wrong with, you got to sell the sizzle with the steak. Okay, that's fine. But there's got to be some steak. Okay. So I hope you're getting the steak, and I hope the steak is like giving you something to think about so that you can change your mind about yourself. Give yourself permission to be something more. Give yourself permission to be your mental point of origin. Think about these things. Contemplate these things. Work it out for yourself. I'm glad it's entertaining for you, but don't let the entertainment overshadow the lessons and the tools that have been handed to you in the last, hour and 43 minutes, right?
The most important thing that was said this whole time was change your mind about yourself. Even me, bro, like when I started YouTube, I started it just because I was watching a lot of content and I was real elaborate in the comments. And I looked at people that were real elaborate in the comments with no dummy profiles. Like, I don't want to be those guys. So let me just create a little bit of content. That way, at least people can see, okay, who's this fucking guy talking this shit? Oh, he has a face. And then, when I did, Lucario interviewed me when I had like 70 subs, then I start being a dating coach, because guys like what I said. And when I started this YouTube, I had a lot of women. But the whole thing is, and matter of fact, and that's why I had Jonathan write the forward to this book. The Key, that's a personal development book, because he was the one who changed my mindset as far as YouTube, because see, Even though I was doing YouTube and I got positive feedback and people say, "Oh, I like your books," they DM me all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first webinar that I did where I got the live feedback and people were like, "Man, I read your book. It was dope. This is my favorite chapter," and I can hear it, and it's like, "Damn, I'm a life changer, bro." Forget these women, and it made my dating stuff go like this because the energy I get from helping people was better than sex for me. Because
Mm-hmm.
sex is only good for that 30 minutes you do it, and then it's really good for that last 2 minutes.
Right.
When you
I
get positive energy, it lasts the whole day. It can last the whole week.
A lot of guys get in, and this is one of the criticisms with the red pills. A lot of guys get into the red pill because they think it's like how to get girls, right? It's PUA. Like I get called this all the time by my haters. Oh, he's a PUA. He's a dating coach. I'm like, I've never been a dating coach in my life. I've never been a PUA in my life. But because what I analyze and what I talk about has a relationship to PUA, has a relationship to guys who are focusing on that. There's guys in red pill communities that focus on just getting laid. There's guys that focus on crypto. There's guys that focus and may, peripherally, maybe that's their main, point. Or, whether it's personal development, whether it's fit, like Fresh and Fit, man. Myron started out as a fitness guy. And now he's doing the red pill stuff. And he quotes me all the time. And I love Myron to death. I love Myron and Fresh like brothers, man. And so like, I know that their direction and what their expertise is or their little speciality is it's still the same steak. It's just the sizzle's a little bit different, right? My steak is still the same steak. It's just that my sizzle is a little bit different. And so when it comes to like, I wouldn't say rival, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having a healthy rivalry. I mean, I have a rivalry with my brother, right? But it's not like you're one has to win and one has to lose. It's one motivates the other. It's okay to have rivalships as long as you're from that rivalship and from that competition, you're becoming something more. Even in failure, you have to be able to become something else. You have to be hopeful about something else, even in failure. So if you have a rival or something, like there's stuff that I really wish that I had like seen before John had, or I had seen before Myron had. And these guys are doing their thing and their sizzle is different from mine. And I'm still learning a lot. I learn a lot from these guys. I learn a lot from like the applications and the context that they're talking about. I change my, not my steak, but I change my sizzle a little bit so that I can be a little bit more relevant in this day and age, right? The context changes, the truth doesn't, but the context and how it's applied definitely changes. And still, and will change further in the future as things progress. After I'm gone, it'll be a whole different ballgame. But the same truths that I'm talking about in 2002, 2012, 2022 are all still going to be the same. It's just how we apply them and how we think about them and how we're going to use them. Men and women don't change all that much over the course of 100,000 years. So what are you going to do with that? How can you use that? How can you leverage that to your best advantage? If you want to say, well, you're my rival, you're my competition, good. That's healthy as long as you're not like self-destructive about that. But it's good to say, hey, it's one thing for me to go, hey, Afi, have you thought about this? Check this out, right? And for me and you go, oh man, I wish I would have saw that. I wish I thought of that first, right? I wish I would have figured out how to do that first, right? Guys tell me this all the time. It's one of the reasons why I wrote the second book. I wish I would have known this before I made that decision. I wish I would have read your book before I got married, before I had kids, before I decided to move to this town because I had a better career elsewhere because the bitch left me or whatever it is. They have those regrets that they think they could have avoided had they had the information prior to making those decisions, right? Great. That's why I wrote the second book, Preventive Medicine, to prevent you from making bad decisions, right? To help the guys who haven't made those decisions yet. And so as a result of that, you might get a hold of that and go, damn, that's great. I wish I would have done that ahead of time. This guy did it. This guy didn't do it. He has regrets. This guy doesn't. He can move on a little bit more. You've learned from your own mistakes. You're learning from this guy's successes. You can move further and maybe later on down the line, you go, he didn't think of this. So now you are and you've grown more as a person because you have that back and forth. There's nothing wrong with that back and forth. It's when it becomes like you're comparing yourself or you're beating yourself up because you're not as cool as that guy, or it's like it becomes envy or it becomes jealousy. That's when it gets unhealthy. That's discontent that is destructive. Discontent that is constructive is having a good, creative, critical, positive criticism, constructive criticism. That's what I'll call constructive, right? It's having that and building from that. And even when you are in failure, you're still building. And it's not because the guy kicked your ass and ground your dick in the dirt. It's because you didn't think of it before that guy. He beat you in the game this time, but next time you're going to beat him again because you have learned from that. And now that's what keeps us moving and growing and going up the hierarchy.
That's that Kobe Bryant energy you're speaking of.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Motivates you to become something better, become something more. You need that competition. You need to win. Also, by the way, there's a biological aspect to that too. When a man wins, he gets a testosterone spike. When a guy kicks another dude's ass, he gets a testosterone spike. Hell, even when your favorite sports team wins the Super Bowl or a football game, a really tight football game, you're going to get, just sort of like by association, a testosterone spike, and women pick up on that. And you become more attractive as a result. That's why women like violence, not necessarily because of the actual violence, but because the guy who won is the guy they want to fuck. And why? Because he's manifesting behaviors that are the result of that testosterone spike. Very simple.
Oof. Man, this is fire game.
To the bank.
Signs in the chat right now. Are we listening to the same stream? Close X videos now in the separate tab and be attendance for the show. Shout out to RSB. He said one more time, definitely going to review the Rational Mail soon. He's going to get your review. He's reviewed 6 of my books. Now you got 2 more. Shout out to Jessica X. Beautiful. You changed your avatar. You trying to level up on the avatar and be sexy?
That's all right. I like her avatar.
Showing love before I go to bed. I show love to you, Jessica X. But we still got to do our one-on-one too. You done been on my panels. We got to talk sexy to each other because I got the sexy smooth voice for the men and you got the London shit for the women. We need to combine and get these fists together like on Rocky IV, the intro. Boom! That's what we need to do, Jessica X. So I didn't knock my book over because that's the real game. So Jessica X, email me. And happy birthday to Sir Ism. We are cyborgs. You get a super one because Rollo here. We are cyborgs. We cyborgs. Sir Ism, happy birthday, brother. Appreciate that. J.R. Sylvie, he says, 2 of the most highly respected red pill godfathers in the sphere. Much respect. Much respect to you, brother. I respect it that you guys respect it because we really here to change lives. I mean, you guys can take for whatever information, but we know our intent. And what you do with it, that depends on you. It's just like me. I was raised by a single mom, but my circumstances wasn't bad. I use that as motivation. Like, oh, okay, I was lacking that. Well, let me search for mentors. That's why I have a certain amount of respect for my elders. It's sir. Like even when I email you, it was very because that's how I was raised. I don't look at people my age the same as my elders, and that's all that I know. I don't know no difference.
I ain't that much older than you.
No, I'm just saying, like it's just a because I was put on game by the older cats, so I respect people who fed into me. You know what I'm saying? I'm a life teacher. I tell guys like you guys be looking at homeless people, laughing at them and stuff. That homeless person might have been a real estate tycoon who just couldn't get over heartbroken. You laughing at him when you could have given him $2 sandwich and sit there and talk to him 5 minutes, and he may even be able to help you get through his breakup because he didn't know how to get over his. He learned his lesson later.
Yep. It's like when you're in martial arts, man. It's like, yeah, you don't laugh at the white belt, right? You don't laugh at the kid because there's probably something that kid can teach you as a black belt. You don't realize they always talk, at least in I do Kali, but it's like in the martial arts that I've been a part of, it's like you can learn from any level of, like, just because you're a black belt doesn't mean you can't learn something from a white belt.
Because it's different experiences, man. Speaking of experiences, I know you were in the music and stuff, and I know Viking wants to hear some music stuff because that's the guy. Like, how did doing music? I know it probably taught you a little bit about status, hypergamy. Like, talk about some of that. Like for me, I said my underworld moment is I had a friend who was a stripper. He only recently retired because he had a baby. But that was my red pill because it's like once I went to the sex party, I
You
just
see
keep
how
it
it
real. I
works?
gotta be real. Once I went to the set, because it's like I had an idea of what a promiscuous woman looked like.
Mm-hmm.
If a woman was quiet, square, nerd, oh, she's a good girl. And then if a girl dresses fast, she's a bad girl. But when I went to the sex party, doctors, nurses, lawyers, judges, super conservative are nasty. So I was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's a freak. More or less, everybody's a freak. You're a freak. I'm a freak. We're all freaks. When people, guys, nobody's asked me this in a long time.
Good.
So I have been in and out of the music industry, let's just say, since I was about 21 years old. So like back in the late 80s into the early 90s. I was on one of my claim to fame is I was a guitar player for I'm not going to say the band, but I was on a show, was on the Paramount Network. It was the Party Machine, and it was a show that came on back in like 92 or 93. And I used to go and do studio work for bands. And so they would hit me up if they needed somebody to come on and be a guitar player or whatever, for whatever it was. But I was on this show called The Party Machine. It came on at 1:00 in the morning. It was right after the Arsenio Hall show. And it was supposed to be their answer to Club MTV at the time. And there's probably about 6 or 7 videos of me on that show that are still floating around. I've got a few of the more spicy ones, but that was fun because like that sort of introduced me to I was in a different level. And then I got into being sort of a semi-professional musician during that time. That taught me a lot. A lot of people ask me this. They'll say, Rollo, like, when was your red pill moment? Like, when did you realize that things weren't the way that they should be? When I was playing in the Hollywood metal scene back then, I was still very blue pill, although at the time I would have called myself sort of like a lesser alpha. And
How
I was
old were you? I want to picture this.
21, 22, 23, somewhere around there. Okay, yeah, so we're talking about like about 30 years ago. And so I would be like, my life I lived in North Hollywood for a while, and my life consisted of essentially going to a community college because I still had to stay at college, and making enough money to make rent and to play the next gig. And I think I had a pickup truck, and I had all my musical equipment. That was my assets. Those were my liquid assets. I lived in a single studio apartment in North Hollywood. My dining room table was one of them big ass spools that, like big cables around, like one of those wood things, like a bachelor pad spool was my dining room table. And I had women who would come over and would come to me. And I learned how to go from being sort of this blue pill chump that I was in high school to learning how to get laid. And I realized later on, I didn't realize at the time, but I realized I used to watch Party Machine. Go look it up, man. And Nia Peoples, I hung out with Nia Peoples. And
I know the show too. That's the Nia Peoples one.
The Nia Peoples show. Yeah, she was the host. Yeah. And then, Sally Kirkland. I used to hang out with Sally. She's an old, she's still alive. Sally Kirkland used to be friends of Nia Peoples, and she'd be on that show too. And
it's cold.
And so like that was my claim to fame back then. It was Nia. Like I knew Nia Peoples, and she was actually, I probably still is, very good friends with Arsenio Hall. But that was the show. She was the hostess of that show when it was on. And man, let me tell you something. I was spoiled for women on that show, because you just go look at any of the dancers, like, because what's funny is they used to get they used to shoot 2 shows. One would be like really early in the morning, and the other one would be after like 12 o'clock noon. And then they would show those shows. I'd put them in the can, and then maybe they'd put them on the air whenever they wanted to. But the early morning shows were always great because it was usually partiers, like people who were going the club scene, who would go and pull an all-nighter, and then they'd go to shoot. They'd still be dancing and go to the Club MTV thing that was on the Paramount Studios at that time. And man, some of the women were just absolutely unbelievable for that time period. For like, I think it was 92, 93 was right around when that was gone. Maybe it was earlier than that. I don't know. But so right around there it was a lot of fun. So I learned a lot there. That I won't say that that's necessarily my red pill moment, but my red pill moment was kind of like over the course of time. So that was certainly, I learned what worked for me and how to get laid. I learned a form of game that worked for Rollo Tomassi. right? I played a character that women wanted to get with. They wanted to cross it off their bucket list, right? They wanted a long haired guy who was, rail thin, heroin chic, rail thin, wanted to bang that guy. And I had women who would seriously, like, literally crawl through my window to, like, have sex with me in the morning before they knew I was going to go off to college that morning. And then they'd go off to work, and then I would go off to school. And, like, seriously, no, 2 nickels to rub together and have women buying me, like, cars and buying me, like, clothes. Do you ever see The Dirt with Motley Crue, where the girlfriend is buying Vince Neil, like, his leather pants, stuff like that? That was me for a little while. I'm not too big to say it, but that was me for a little while. And then I got involved with a BPD girlfriend that I had. I've been with women who are, let's see, at that time I was with women who were as old as 41, and I was with women who are like 18. So kind of just, I ran the gamut back then, and I've got about a 43 notch count altogether. And in some ways, I think that's kind of like low, because I'll run into somebody who's got like triple digits, and then they think that I should pack up and go home. And then I'll talk to somebody who's got, like, I'll talk to, like, Pat Campbell or, like, his audience, and they think I'm a man whore because I have like 40, I've had 40 women. So it's kind of like a matter of perspective at that point. But, like, that wasn't necessarily my red pill moment. It might've been after I sort of broke up with the borderline personality disorder girl. That was a moment. It's like a series of moments. There wasn't any one, like, I've had a lot of crisis and I've had a lot of fun along the way, but I can't really point to one where I go, that's what woke me up. I think if there is a point, it was when my father, or my brother-in-law, ended up committing suicide as a result of, like, I can't live without her. She's my one. She's my soulmate. And I've had 2 people who are very close to me commit suicide as a result of what I call, if you read the first book, it's the soulmate myth. And it's the, the songs like Michael Bolton, I could never live without you, that kind of stuff. Literally, if you're blue pill enough, like Prince Harry, if you're blue pill enough, you will get to the point where you literally cannot live without that person, to the point where you'll put a noose around your neck and literally kick the bucket and hang yourself or shoot yourself or swallow a bullet, right? And that was what I think, if there was any, like, really anything that really woke me up, it was that experience. But not so much that experience as it was everyone who was trying to rationalize why the guy would do it. And all the women in his life, and his ex-wife, who's my sister-in-law right now, and all of the reasoning and rationales and just bullshit hamstering that came afterwards, that woke me up more than anything. Not so much, I mean, the suicide was bad enough, and that was the first of 2. And that was bad enough. But when people are, like, people who knew him or people who didn't even know him were trying to make up excuses as to why, like, remember when Anthony Bourdain hung himself? Like, that brought back memories. Anthony Bourdain, the celebrity chef guy who just killed himself, I think it was back in 2018. And it did so as a result of Asia Argento, like, I guess, basically cheating on him. That was the catalyst. She didn't put the noose around his neck, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Same thing. And the first thing, and it's so predictable, first thing out of anyone's mouth is, she didn't kill him. He did it. He was depressed. He was on, sleeping pills. He was on whatever it is, anything in the world except for the most obvious, most blatant, in your face answer, which is, the guy had one-itis. He had the soulmate myth. He wanted, his perfect little idealistic romantic world was just crushed for him, and it was more than he could take. And so when people look at Anthony Bourdain and they say, why would a guy with that millions of dollars and a success, he's alpha as fuck, why wouldn't he do such a thing? Because it's mindset. What were we saying before? It's where your head's at. If you're stuck in the blue pill, if you're stuck in that idealism, if you're stuck in that beta mentality, I don't care how good looking you are, how much money you have, how freaking much muscles you have, what the fuck your status is, how famous you are. If you have that mentality, if you have a blue pill mentality and everything goes to hell, you might kill yourself. But that's how bad it is. So when people say it's all about looks, fuck you. It's not just about looks. It's about what's up in here. It's about congruency. And you know what? Anthony Bourdain, my brother-in-law, my best friend who was like an actual radio DJ that was here in Reno, Nevada. He ended up swallowing a bullet as a result of like, oh, she's gone. It's over. I can't live without her. And he's done. Right. And that right there, you got a guy who's like an otherwise a very outgoing, extroverted dude who had just simply has like bad programming and decided to kill himself as a result of that. And that's one of the things that prompted me to really write this book and get involved in what I was doing. So, and there's the rock star side of things. I learned a lot there. I learned a lot being married. I've learned a lot from a borderline personality disordered girlfriend. I've learned a lot from the young women that I've been with and the older women that I've been with. I can speak to a lot of different topics at this stage in my life. I've been in the alcohol and like the wine and spirits industry, like still am right now. I've been in it for almost 20 years now. And then I've been in, I worked in gaming. I worked as an art director. I worked as a brand manager. I've done brand identity. I've done brand management. I've been in advertising and art direction. I can do video. I can do audio. I just came from a recording session before I came on this show a minute ago. I do a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I like to do that I have an interest in. And that's, again, like that's discontent, but it's creatively, and I keep going and going and going. And that's what keeps me going.
Thanks. Let me give a special shout out to Steph is Cold. That's my young brother personally. Steph did my first website. I know Steph for real. So
another one I follow.
The hottest young. If AMS and BOA come in here, I'm gonna turn Thriller on and do a dance, the Michael Jackson dance. So shout out to Steph is Cold. Love you, bro, and appreciate your support continuously from 3 years now, bro. Because I wasn't even making content when we first met. So that's the first thing. The other two things I want to do is say my real red pill moments real quick, and then talk about the body count. So my red pill moments were three things. They happened three separate times in my life. The first one, I would say, the real is I was a natural. I'm a definite. I was always good with chicks, bro. Never bad with chicks. But I noticed I was having problems with girlfriends though. And I was like, well, wait a minute. How come I got a rotation of 5 and these girls miss me, adore me, want to be with me? I don't really give them that much attention. I don't really do too much of nothing. And they're super invested. But then I have a girlfriend who I tell her I love her, take her on dates, and she's giving me the most pushback. So then I was just like, well, what's the what's the common denominator? What's the issue? Oh, I'm treating this girlfriend, I'm putting her on a pedestal. See, I put the girlfriend on the pedestal, but I didn't think it was a bad thing because I still had chicks. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, I'm still a player. I'm this my queen. I love her, all this. I'm still a G because I still got other girls. No. And that's why I'm having problems with this girl. So that was my first one, was just realizing that it wasn't the woman's fault. It was my energy that was changing. And that's why I was getting different results. The second one is when I got my first one night turnover. Because I had an older brother, he's in his 50s, but he was in his 20s when I was like 10. So I would see how he would date, and he would relationship date. So I figured, oh, I want sex. I guess first thing I gotta do is get a girlfriend. So it doesn't matter if I like the girl or not. If I wanted to hit it, she became my girlfriend. Oh, that's the step. She has to be the girlfriend first. And then I remember I met a girl, and it's almost like my analytical mind was having a malfunction because I met a girl, and I came to her house the next day and we had sex. And I was confused. Usually like, yes, I'm confused. Like, wait a minute. We didn't do the steps. Like, I didn't talk to her. We didn't do all of these things. And then so from that, and then she sexually dominated me and then let me know, wait a minute. Something went off in my head like, women like sex too. Because I will look at sex as something that we earn from the chick. Like the chicks, we desire the sex. So that's the way of a woman showing, okay, you know what? I really like you. You can get inside of me now. And then I realized, wait, women just like to have sex. So that tells me that I can pull back my stuff because they want to have sex with me. So I can dangle my own stuff.
Have you ever had it? Have you ever, or do you have now any booty calls? Any friends with benefits?
I mean, I got about 20, 30 chicks I can call at any time, bro. But, yeah, I'm serious because of like just on Facebook alone. I literally have contact with every single woman I was in a relationship with, if I want to. Not just hit, just because they're all on there. Instagram, so yeah, plenty of that, but
I'll tell you I'll tell you something that's funny because you were asking about like my rock star 20s and everything. I can remember like when the first girl I ever had sex with, I was 17 years old. And I was the same way, right? I was like, okay, I got a girlfriend now. And you, boy, especially when you got your 17-year-old mind is like, okay, I got to make this last. I gotta build. I gotta support her. I gotta be the guy, right? I gotta be, because you're essentially what your brain is. You're making up all these rationales, but your brain is like, okay, what do I got to do to keep this shit coming in? You're like, what do I got to do to keep the sex spigot on, right? And so it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. And of course you believe it. And this is like in the 80s, right? So it's like, it's the same. Like a lot of guys think that this is like some new thing, like where guys have to like, support her and believe in this egalitarian equalism kind of stuff and everything. It's been around for a lot longer than just like the last 10 years. I mean, we're talking back in the 80s when all this shit was going down. And so I was trying to think, okay, how do I keep this going? Blah, blah, blah. And of course I was the same way. I was like, okay, it's what I call serial monogamy. The only right way for you to get laid is to have a girlfriend and to be invested in her emotionally and be planning for the future with her. And hopefully things go the right way. And then if it doesn't work out, then you get another girlfriend and then you bang her and then you try to make it work out with her. And then if that doesn't work out, then it's like it's monkey branching, but it's monkey branching for guys who get into relationships where the girl ends up leaving. Usually she ends up leaving you. So there's that. It's what I call serial monogamy, and there's actually a scientific word for that, or it's called strategic pluralism theory. So if a guy doesn't have a lot of sexual opportunities, he's not the top 20%. He's not an alpha male, right? It is in his best interest, in his reproductive best interest, to put all of his eggs in one basket, right? It's what I call the sniper mentality, to focus on one target the whole time and take your shot, right? To always put as much emotional investment and financial investment and personal investment, whatever, in one girl, because you don't have the opportunities to be banged. You're not the guy that other men want to be and other women want to fuck. And so as a result of that, your game changes and it centers on serial monogamy. One girl, then the next one girl, then the next one girl. And it took me going into the Hollywood music scene to realize that it's okay to spin plates. And I didn't even like, if you've read my book, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to it's dating non-exclusively. You have lots of girlfriends. You have lots of potential girls. Some of them you sleep with, some of them you don't. Some are interested in you. Some of them you might be interested in as well. Some you're banging, some you're not banging, but you're spinning plates. You have a lot of opportunities and a lot of options to go to. Should one not pan out, you've got other girls that are on speed dial, right? So you got that going for yourself, and that puts you into a different frame of mind. So I went from being this very one man. I'm a one man kind of guy or one girl kind of guy, right? And that was my whole mentality. I got into the Hollywood metal scene. And I'm like, why would I settle for one? And I'm looking, because I got to a point where I could go to a club and I could pick out a girl and I could go, yeah, I'm going to get with that girl by the end of this night. Or I had choice at that point because I knew what they were looking for. I knew what worked for me in that time, in that environment. Again, domain dependency, but I knew what worked for me in that club or playing on stage, right? There's social proof, there's pre-selection. I didn't realize that. I instinctively understood that because that's what was working and that's what I was getting positive feedback from. And it was this cycle of reinforcement. So I got to the point where I look forward to it. I loved every minute of it, man. From the time I was like, say 20 until I was about 24, 25 years old, I loved every second of that because I was spoiled, man. I had women buy me cars, man, or used cars anyways. I had women like buying me drinks. I had women buying me stuff. And it wasn't so much the material thing. It was like having the choice of like nailing like a variety of chicks, which I didn't think would have ever been possible for me when I was 17 years old. But now I'm 22 years old. And I'm banging the manager of the band that I'm in. I have like 2-3 different girlfriends. I've got 2 booty calls. If one doesn't work out, there's another one that's ready to go jump in the hot tub whenever I want to go. And it wasn't until I started getting with higher tier girls, like the girlfriend that I had at 17, maybe she was a 6 or a 7, right? I get into the Hollywood metal scene. By the time I'm 22, I'm not thinking about the girls who I thought would have been great lays when I was in high school. I'm looking at girls who are swimsuit models. I'm looking at girls who are on doing spots on Married with Children at that time. And I thought I had hit that my apex when I got with a swimsuit model until I actually got with a real centerfold at that time. And I was like, or you get with a stripper, or now suddenly you've got booty calls. And I didn't even realize that there was even such a thing as a booty call until I got one. And I go, oh, it's just about the sex. I can just call her up and say, hey, why don't you come over? And me saying, why don't you come over? Or, hey, let's meet up. We knew, both of us knew what that meant, which is we're going to bang. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to have a little drink or whatever. You're going to go home. I'm going to go home. I'm going to crash out. And I'm going to call you maybe another week. There's no emotional investment. There's just sex. And that's the same. I should say that a booty call is the opposite of the friend zone. The friend zone is all emotional investment and no sex. A booty call is all sex and no emotional investment. Take that to the bank. There's your lesson for the day, kids. It's the opposite. So if you can get into that position and women seek you out to be your booty call, that's when you're approaching alpha right there. My mindset was an alpha, but I was living the lifestyle of an alpha and I was enjoying it. It was just simple pragmatism at that point. It's not like I had decided, oh, this is how I'm going to be. It was just because it was opportunity and it was right there. And that turned me into who I was at that time. And then I moved on from there. I got into it. Like I said, I got into a really bad relationship with a borderline personality disorder girl because she was hot as fuck. And she was fun and she was crazy in bed and she was crazy out of bed. And I wasn't prepared for that. The problem with, I wrote this in the first book. It's called, there's a chapter in there called Dream Girls and Children with Dynamite. And one of the things that the early pickup artists used to worry about was you're giving like these guys the keys to the castle to get with women that they are unprepared to actually deal with. They might get laid, but once they get past the initial lay, they don't know what to do with that girl. And that girl might be borderline personality disorder. There might be something seriously wrong with it. But that girl is the hottest girl that those guys have ever gotten with. And they're willing to do anything to sustain it and keep it going to the point where they'll put a gun in their mouths and shoot themselves because they'll never get a hotter girl than that girl because they got the skills, they got the game skills. They just don't have the red pill theory and the understanding to back it up. That's why you get like a guy like Mystery or even Neil Strauss or whatever, and they're suicidal and they're like, despondent because they can't make their dreams come true. They're great at game. They can get laid like on demand, but they're not red pill. They don't understand why the game works. Right. And they're trying to make their blue pill dreams come true with game that they got it down, right? But they still don't understand that their blue pill expectations and their ideals is false. Because they never make the red pill connection. And so they get suicidal, they get depressed, they're taking, antidepressants, they're despondent, and it's never worth it, so then you get somebody like Roosh, right? Then you get, someone like Mystery. And I think that's something, especially if you're just now unplugging, or if that's something that is maybe that you don't think is a concern, you might want to think about it because it will be a concern later on in your life.
I want to make 3 imperative points real quick. The first one, and this is a lesson for you guys. This is what made me cold. Is I told you the sex part, the treating women different part with my red pills, and the third main one is when I experienced heartbreak for the first time. But not only that, I remember it was MySpace. I was broken up with, and now that I'm up on game, I know why it happened. But seeing her move on so fast, it fucked me up.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, I seen her on Facebook with another dude, and I was like, bruh, like you just loved me 3 weeks ago. Like how do you
guys? You guys younger than me have it worse. I hate to say that. I know it sounds like an old man, but you have it worse than I do because I didn't have when I was with girls that I was like emotionally invested in, and then they ended up cheating on me or they ended up moving on, or like I didn't realize how fucked up my life was because I had invested in that girl. And then you realize that that girl can be like she never even knew who you are. Like it amazed me how quickly just the turn of the key, right? It's like, okay, you're one person, then you're like, they never even knew who you were. Like, forget your name.
Yeah, I was like,
You've
dude,
been with that girl for 4 years and she don't even remember your name. She does, but she's acting like as if she doesn't. And I remember that. And but I never had to worry about it being like on Facebook. I never had to have it in my face all the time. It was just like if I saw her at a club or maybe her friends or I was at school or whatever, and she's just like, "Who are you?" You know, I was like, "Me. I've been with you for 4 years. I was your ex-boy." And you're like, "How?" And that actually prompted an essay of mine that I have called War Brides. And I always wondered about that. And I had guys asking me about that. How come, like Rollo, how come women can be so cold and they could just like turn on you like on a dime and you would never even know, like they never even knew who you were. And I thought about that and I go, that's because in our evolutionary past, women had to do that because things were a lot more chaotic back then. So one tribe comes in, kills off all the boys and the men, and takes the women as war brides, right, as prizes as spoils of war, bring them back to their encampment. They have two choices. They can either kill themselves because they can't get over the loss of their children and their now dead husband, or they can develop what's called Stockholm syndrome and fall in love with their captors. And that is something that women manifests in women way more than men do. So when it comes to like Nazi officers in Holland during World War II, Holland women, like Dutch women, would get with those officers and bang those officers because they thought that they were doing the right thing. They thought that because that was in their reproductive and life-wise their best interest, because they at that point they thought the Germans were going to win. And then later on, they come to find out that now they are considered collaborators and they're publicly shamed and had their hair chopped off pretty viciously as a result of that. And of course, the collaborators who were men, they just shot them in the streets. But the idea that women can sort of turn off their emotions when it comes to survival situations like that, that's where that comes from. So when a woman has decided that she's not with you anymore and she is done, she moves on way, way faster than you will, because for men have a lot more time to find a partner, whereas women only have a very small window of opportunity where they're their most attractive and they're most arousing. So hypergamy can't afford to miss out and it can't afford to waste time. So if a woman is 22 years old and on some level of consciousness, she understands that this is her moment. This is what she's going to say, you know what, you're out, he's in, and she's going to move on to that guy. And as she gets older in life, that urgency becomes more imperative to her. So women learn psychologically, and this is an evolutionary, I believe anyways, this is an evolutionary, like sort of innate trait amongst women in the way that their brains are structured and their psyches are structured, because solipsistic women had to be able to do that, because if they didn't, they died. So when she doesn't know you and you go, God, how could she be so cold? That's horrible, blah blah blah. You're thinking in, like, guys are thinking in terms of like love as an ideal. She's thinking in terms of love as an opportunity, because if she doesn't, she's not going to have kids. She's not going to be supported. She's not going to have any kind of long-term security later on in life, unless she can turn off her feelings for you and turn them on for somebody else.
Fire game. Bro.
I know, and it's hard. Those are ugly, ugly, unflattering truths about female nature. And again, like, I can put that in the nicest terms possible. I can put that in the sweetest, most monotone tone you can imagine. It's the information that's still kind of hard to accept. Mm-hmm. And even guys don't want to accept it because they want to still believe, women could never do that until they experience it. And then suddenly now they're all bitter and upset.
Man, I remember going through that. It's like I had a quick montage of all the simping and bullshit that I went through in like 30 seconds. Like, I went through all of this with her just for her to fuck with. Because it wasn't like she was on a date on a guy. Like, she was in a relationship with a guy. So I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yes, it's the war brides dynamic. It's a survival adaptation is what it is.
You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy. The other point that I wanted to make is of what you were saying is two things real quick. Is like, so those were the three things, the three red pills. So the first thing that's good is a teachable moment is when you basically um, you were in the scene and you were sleeping with these hot models and stuff like that. Now, there's guys who sleep with hot Instagram girls or hot just girls they meet at the club or whatever. But the
Mhm.
difference is you're dealing with women with the most options, and that's where you're confident because it's not just because some women are hot, but they're not super desirable. They may come off mean, whatever, or there's their innocence, but you're dealing with women who have super abundance options, and then they're choosing you. So that puts your shit up there. And the second thing is about the body count. Body count doesn't matter. I look at it, bro, like if you, because the thing is, everybody's not into sleeping with a million women. That's not everybody's fix.
Yeah.
You assume that it is, but it's not. But some people have to do it to understand that they don't like it. You know what I'm saying? So you have to do it first. So it's like oh, when you lost my thought. When you oh yeah, when you come on now, what did I just say? Lost my thought. Shout out to Duro White, Downroad White for the
Sorry, let me see if I can refresh your memory here. As far as body count is concerned, I've done several essays and I've done several episodes actually on my channel about the importance of body count. And this is another one of those double standards that women hate. Like, and I'm thinking, I think I might actually do a 30-minute video or something on double standards, because whenever we talk about double standards, women will always bring up one thing. It's like there's no other double standard on planet fucking Earth except for, well, how come when a guy has sex with lots of women, he's a superhero, but when a woman has sex with a lot of men, she's a slut and easy. And it's like, yeah, that is a double standard. You're absolutely 100% correct about that. But you know what? Men and women are different. That's why. That is. Because men who are successful with women are high value men. They're the women that other women want to fuck. They're the men that other men want to be. Yes, that is an outward manifestation of a guy who has high value. He has options with lots of women. Throughout human history, powerful men have had three things. They have had access to territory. They have access to resources, usually as a result of that territory, and they have access to lots and lots of women. They have a harem in the Forbidden City in China, right? They have the tribal chieftain in the Amazon rainforest, takes all his women, his concubines, puts them in one little area and has cuts off the dicks of the guards and turns them into eunuchs so they won't breed with them. So he knows damn well that he's going to be reproducing with the hottest chicks in the tribe because he's the chieftain. He's the powerful alpha male. He has territory, he has resources, and he has chicks. And that is exactly what defines a high-value guy, and has done so in the most visceral, most Darwinistic way possibly imaginable throughout history. I don't care if it makes you feel bad. I don't care if you think it's a double standard. Guess what? Life ain't fair. It's not equal. Sorry. The only reason women have a problem with that is because they think it should be equal. Because they think that men and women are just the same, that we're all blank slates. Bullshit. You're a woman, I'm a man. You find me attractive because I have access to territory, resources, and women just want to bang me so much. That's why I'm desirable. Women, when you're with a guy who has access to other women that other women want to get with, that is a reflection on that woman's quality. I'm with a guy who can get with dozens of chicks, and I'm the one that he's with. I'm the fucking queen, even though he could be banging all these concubines anyways, because them's the rules, right? That's a double standard, because if I'm a high-value guy and I'm putting off all the girls that I have options with to get with you, how come I don't get to do that? Is that not equality? That should be equality. No, that equality only works one way. And the only reason why you're upset about that kind of stuff, and we talked about this on Fresh and Fit when we talk about like men should have a right to cheat or something like that. The only reason why women get upset about a double standard is because you think that it should be blank slate equals. No, No. Men and women are not equals. We are different. Doesn't mean one's superior over the other. It just means in different situations, things are going to have an advantage or a disadvantage. And that in that situation, you're at the disadvantage. You're considered a slut because a woman who sleeps around is not a good woman for a reproductive potential for men. Because what that says is if everybody in the village gets a turn with you and you're the village slut, that means that probably if I have sex with you and I marry you, I can't be 100% certain that the kid is mine. What did we say about like good relationships and marriage? One of those criteria was I need to know that if I'm going to invest all of my resources, my territory, and my potential to have lots and lots of chicks, here's my one caveat. The damn kid has to be mine. If you're sleeping around, you're not a good prospect for that. Sorry, that's how it works. Not equal, not blank slate. Men and women are different. That's why you're a slut and I'm a superhero. Is that a good enough explanation for you? Did I say it nice and sweetly in a nice tone for you? Because that's the truth. There are lots and lots of double standards. The only thing women ever look at as a double standard is that right there. Because they think it should be equal. They think they should be an equal partnership or egalitarian equalism and blah, blah, blah. The guy that you want to get with, ladies, is an alpha male. That guy has access to territory, resources, and lots of women. He's the guy that other men want to be and other women want to fuck. And if you get to lock him down, you're the princess of you're the diva of the ball. You're the debutante of the ball, and everybody's got their eyes on you because you must be special if that high quality a guy wants to get with you and stick with only you. Congratulations, you locked him down, and that's why he's still a superhero for banging lots of chicks. The other thing is this. Men do not approach sex the same way that women do. They do not have the same mating strategies. Women are looking for quality. Men are looking for quantity. Men's innate mating strategy is unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. Don't believe me? Go look at Pornhub. Go look at X videos. Go look at I don't even know whatever there is. Go look at, ask yourself this. Why is pornography free? Streaming? It's ubiquitous. 4K. Anybody with a smartphone can watch porn, right? Why is it free? Because it's unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. Does that mean that all guys are dogs? No, it doesn't. Does that mean all guys can't control themselves? No, it doesn't. But that is the underlying principle. We are monogamous by choice, but we are promiscuous by nature. So what you're looking for, ladies, is you're looking for guys in self-control over that innate mating strategy. You know what guys are looking for? They're looking for a woman who is in control of her hypergamy, who says, you know what? I'm thinking about things in the long term. And so therefore, I want to be a good choice for a guy for his potential paternity. I want to get with a guy who I want to marry. That guy, I want to have his babies. Again, goes all the way back to that. But men can separate the sex act from an emotional investment. Women have a very difficult time doing that. That's why when women have more sex partners, when they have 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, their incidence of divorce goes up. Their incidence of marital happiness goes down. And so there's a lot of psychological reasons and a lot of psychological fallout that come as a result of a woman being loose. For men, they can separate that. They can hit it and quit it, ejaculate and evacuate. They don't have a problem. You might be special and they might emotionally invest in you. But when it comes to sex, unlimited access to unlimited sexuality, and Pornhub is just as good as a real warm body for the most part until you get into an emotional investment with that person. So once again, not equal. Men and women are different. Men do not have a higher incidence of divorce because they had a body count of 40. They do not have a higher incidence of unmarital happiness because they have a body count of 40. You know why they have higher? You know why men have report unhappiness in marriage? Because they're not getting fucked. Because they're not having sex. That's why. Why is it that 60? In my fourth book, I quote this. It's 68 or 70% of Christian men report being addicted to pornography. Why, ladies? Is that not a double standard? Here's 70% of guys who are addicted to porn, but women don't report that high an incidence to being addicted to porn. That seems like a real bad double standard. But guess what? Men and women are not the same. So therefore, those statistics are going to be something that you need to watch out for and think about. So stop thinking in terms of the blank slate. Stop thinking in terms of social constructionism. And for God's sake, stop thinking in terms of egalitarianism.
Hey, Rollo, I'm going to give you a cheat sheet. You know what I tell women when we talk about the equal shit? We're not equal until you can knock me up. The moment when I can walk around with your baby, we equaled in. Until that happens, I plant, you carry.
Men and women are better together than we are apart. We are meant to be, whether this is a religious thing or this is an evolutionary thing, I think it agrees with each other. They both agree with each other, is that men and women are better together than we are apart. We're better cooperating. We are better. We are innate and natural complements to one another. My strengths make up for my wife's weaknesses. Her strengths make up for my weaknesses, depending on what those happen to be. We can cover more territory. We can play more effectively. We can raise a better child. We can build a better tribe as a result of a really good relationship that is complementary to one another. And the problem that we have right now when it comes to double standards and all this other crap is that we think that men could be just as good as mothers as women could be just as good as fathers. That is untrue, incorrect, and is damaging to society to think of those things. We did not evolve that way. Our innate ability, and there's no reason why we shouldn't celebrate femininity. There's no reason why we shouldn't celebrate masculinity, because they are complements to one another. And the minute we try to make everyone androgynous and equal partners and all that other great shit that we think idealistically should work, and we find out that it doesn't and it damages society, we need to throw that shit away.
Shout out to Triple X for the super chat. I appreciate it. I see China White. The one thing I wanted to just touch on real quick about, because it's something that you said that people, I know they didn't catch it. So we always talk about body count in the spirit, right? Now, this is the real answer, guys. I'm solving the problem for you. It doesn't matter if you hit 100, 150, or 50. Once you get to the point when you can seduce on demand, you get it. Rollo said, it doesn't matter if he got 400 bodies. He got to a point where he can go out, pick someone, and know he can sleep. Once you're doing it on demand, that's enough. You don't have to do that 1,000 times. Unless you just like sex and new people, then that's you. But once you understand how a woman's mind works, attraction and seduction, that's it.
No, I 100% agree with that. I also think that it's important to know how you as a guy works and to what to expect. Guys hit me up with this all the time. They worry that the red pill is turning like guys into these misogynistic assholes who hate women. And I always reply with one thing, is that the red pill exists not so you will hate women. It exists so you won't hate women for what they can't be to you. And to understand that, you have to understand your own nature as much as you have to understand women's nature. Because if you're as a guy, if you understand women's nature and all you ever do is focus on that and you don't understand men's nature, you get to a point where you are expecting women and you end up hating women for not being what you think they should be for you. But what you need to do as a guy is understand that as a dude, this is how you're built. This is how the machine works. These are your instincts. This is your emotions, and this is your reasoning, and this is your your machinery. This is your firmware, and this is your software, right? As a guy, these are the ways that you need to think about it, and this is how things work. And accept that there's going to be things that you're not going to be in control of, and there's going to be things that you're like way more control of than women are ever going to be. As soon as you understand yourself and as soon as you understand women, that's when you can actually start to appreciate women for what they actually are, rather than going, she'll never be what I want her to be, we're never going to score. We're never going to score. Yeah, that's what you get when you don't understand yourself. There's guys I know that will just be really absorbed. They understand men's nature and they don't really usually the blue pill is very, very much a misunderstanding and ignorance of women's nature, but like a primary focus on your own nature, right? Whereas for guys who are like sort of in the MGTOW black pill communities, it's always focused on women's nature, but never on their own nature. And I think that the red pill is really an understanding of both. and being able to use those tools of that understanding to leverage it to have a good relationship if that's what you want. If you want to spin plates and you want to bang a lot of chicks, great. You can use it for that too. What do you want? What do you want as a guy? This is have been my mantra since 2021 is what do you want? Where do you want to be? How do you want to use these tools? Right? What do you want for yourself? Because guys will sit there and they'll complain all day long about how women this and women that, and they'll never be accountable and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, great. Okay. Imagine this. Imagine you could change women to be exactly what you want them to be. What is that? To love you, to want to bang you unconditionally, so you have like this big worldwide harem of women. Was that what you ultimately want? Because you need to start thinking, even if that's it, I would rather you tell me that that's it so I can dispel that illusion for you than for you to just persist in this, oh, women will never understand. They'll never be accountable. They'll never be this. Oh, you guys are going to be 32 and have cats and box wine. That sells a lot. That puts a lot of eyes on the screen, but it doesn't solve anything. Yeah. It doesn't solve anything for you personally, because you're just, if your highest goal, what you're telling me is that what you want for your life is to sit online, watch these shows and go, yeah, the baby's not yours. Yeah. That's what it ends up being. Right. So if that's your goal, at least tell me that, so we both are on the same page. So I go, okay, I'm done. I'll go move over here for somebody I can help.
Thanks. I see my man. Let me read this comment. Thank you, China White. That's my sister. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to China White, because that's my sister for like years, thick and thin. And my man Darren said 54 apparently in the chat, apparently half of which content creators and all right didn't realize Aki was the next. You didn't know, bro. You don't see those dating coach of the year blacks behind me. You didn't see that. You don't know I got over 1 million views on all my channels, and I'm the author of 8 books, and I'm the best looking and the best smelling guy on YouTube. Well, you know now, brother.
You're goddamn right.
Now you better learn, somebody.
Say my name.
In case you didn't know, now you know, and we gonna cut a promo because we the best, and we taking this shit to the next level, into the stratosphere, baby. That's Ric Flair.
Oh man, I gotta get going, man. I gotta get going.
Hey, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody's love, and make sure if you came in late, if I will say one thing, if you came in late, I'm talking if you catch all of this, you have to watch all this. An hour ain't enough. 2 hours ain't enough. You got to watch all of it. Just catch the playback. Watch it in parts, because it was so many. This was a webinar on YouTube.
I know. I usually do. I do about 3 hour live casts on my Sunday evening show. It goes from the afternoon to the evening, anyways. Yeah. But yeah.
Appreciate you. Yeah. So for me, just follow me on Instagram at King Genius. You know what, people watch you, they won't follow you on Instagram. It seemed like I would want to see what my people do, especially if they post shit. Mm-hmm. But whatever. Follow me on Instagram.
My Instagram is full of greyhound pictures of my dogs. It's funny. I'll tell you something funny. It's like I went out to go see Fresh and Fit in Miami in January, and then again in March, and I'll be out there in June, in the second weekend of June. But I go out there and Fresh is looking at my Instagram. He goes, "Don't you use your Instagram to connect with people and to advertise and everything?" I go, "No." He goes, "Because there's a lot of dog pictures." It's like, that's all I use it for. So now I'm trying to leverage it a little bit differently. But it's like I got nothing but like pictures of my snowmobiles, my guitars, and my dogs, and that's it.
Man, it was a pleasure. They already asking for it. If you guys want to see another one, just put some fire signs in the chat.
Just say so. Rollo on my show. I'll get you on my show. Or we'll get you, me, and John from Modern Life Dating. We'll work something out. We'll get a panel show going.
You guys make sure you go buy his book, because it's a classic. If you haven't, follow him. And matter of fact, hit the bell. Do not subscribe. Hit the bell. You subscribing is just vanity subs. If y'all not hitting the bell, y'all not looking at the content. So make sure you subscribe to my brother. Appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody coming in and out.
Anytime.
Much love. This was definitely on the bucket list, man. So thank you. I'm gonna send you 2 of my audios to your email. Just check them out. Do that review. Appreciate you, man. Nothing but respect. You speak my language. We had a high frequency mindset conversation. See, we ain't talked to nothing about chasing no women. So I hope you guys enjoyed this shit, man.
Yeah.
And then as for me, Catch me every day, 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Much love, Rollo.
All right.
Support for me always, guys.
It's been good, man. I will see you soon. Well, we'll do it again.
Peace, peace.
All right, man.
Peace, guys.